Good evening. It's that time again. Frank, come on up. Where are you? Give him a round of applause. Frank's Alvarado. There he is. I say that because it's October already. I like it. So I'm going to read this proclamation to be nice and official, but then I'm going to let you introduce the special guest that's under your arm. All right. In honor of Breast Cancer Awareness Month, October 2017, whereas it is estimated that over 231,000 women and 2,300 men were diagnosed with breast cancer in 2016. And whereas approximately 40,000 of those diagnosed are expected to die from breast cancer. And whereas to increase awareness of this disease, October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And whereas this is an annual campaign designed to increase education about early detection, the cause, diagnosis, treatment, and support for survivors. And whereas members of the Turlock Fire Department will support breast cancer awareness by wearing specially designed pink t-shirts as part of their uniform in October. And whereas, in addition, other city staff members are authorized and encouraged to wear the pink Turlock Fire t-shirt every Friday throughout the month of October. And whereas any member of the public may join in supporting this important cause by purchasing and wearing one of these t-shirts for $15 from the Emmanuel Medical Center gift shop, Crivelli's Shirts and More, or the Public Safety Facility Fire Administration. And whereas 100% of the proceeds will be donated to the Bill and Elsie Allen Cancer Endowment in Turlock. Now therefore I, Gary Soyseth, by virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of the city of Turlock, and on behalf of the entire city council and all our citizens, do hereby proclaim October 2017 as Breast Cancer Awareness Month in the city of Turlock, and urge all citizens to join with City of Turlock firefighters in this annual campaign to raise awareness and support for this very worthy cause. Congratulations, Frank. It's yours.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to come and speak in front of you and let you know that we're pretty excited as firefighters to support this cause. This is our sixth year that we started. We raised a total of $83,000 so far for the endowment. So we're actually pretty excited this year that we will hopefully raise our dollar amount, but we'll continue supporting our cause. It's pretty exciting when we're out as firefighters, we're out in the public, and somebody's wearing one of our shirts that we are promoting. It kind of lets us know that, you know, that the message is getting out, the word's getting out. People know where to purchase a shirt. So when they see us, when we wear these shirts during the month of October, they always support us because they're very excited that we're wearing them. So on behalf of the Turlock firefighters, we hopefully that we will continue supporting. You know, we've had firefighters in our where we work at who passed away with cancer. One of them, his name is Keith Crabtree. Crabtree was one of our engineers that worked with us, and he died here years ago with cancer. So ever since then, and you know, families and friends and neighbors that we know, you know, we just take that to heart. So on behalf of the Turlock firefighters, we'll hopefully continue wearing our shirt for the month of October. And like the mayor said, you know where you can buy them at. But this year, we are supporting the flag that we honor every year. So anyway, on behalf of the Turlock firefighters, we hopefully that the message will get out. Thank you very much for having us come speak.
Good job, Frank.
Those are all the council members.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. I think we can give him a better round of applause for that. I think there was a standing ovation over here. There we go. Very cool. Keep this good momentum going. Let's start off with the resolution supporting the extension of a 1/8 cent sales tax to fund the Stanislaus County Library, presented by Assistant to the City Manager for Economic Development and Housing, Ms. Marion Pitt. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The item before you is asking for the council support on the 8-cent sales tax to fund Stanislaus County Library. And I know that the library Yes on S folks have folks here who would like to speak and address the council. Come on.
Hi, my name is Pat Portwood, and I am part of the Friends of the Turlock Library, and part of the Stanislaus Library Foundation, and co-chair of the Save Our Libraries, Measure S. I have fellow supporters with me. Okay, Diane Bartlett, who is our librarian here in Turlock. Carmen Ingalls, who is our Friends of the Turlock Library's president, here to support what I'm about to say. I hope we all know what Measure S is. So this is going to be a test. This is my education background, okay? So I just want to say that, you know, how are the libraries currently funded? I'm looking around too. All right, well, since 1995, an 1/8 of a cent sales tax has been what has funded 89% of the library's budgets. And this tax must be voted on every 5 years. So you might remember Measure T in 2012. People out there, Council, you remember Measure T? Okay, well, fast forward, here we are in 2017. And what is Measure S? Measure S is proposing 5 things to remember. Most importantly, it's a renewal. It's not a new tax. Sometimes that gets people going. It's a renewal. All right? And then it's only an 1/8 of a cent sales tax. That's about equivalent to $18 to $20 a person might spend in a year. Okay? So not much. And then you have to remember the 5 years. This time we're going for 12 years. So we won't have to come back and ask you for your support again for 12 years. I like that because I'll be really old then. So it will be good. Okay? And last thing, or 2 last things, it requires 2/3 vote. Right? So we need to get the people out, which is what we're in the process of doing. And what I love, it's a dedicated tax. It cannot, when times get hard, and they do, it cannot be scooped up. It's not sitting in general fund. It's what I call protection money for our libraries. And so therefore, those are the 5 things. It's simple, it's easy, and one of the things that I encounter as we speak to groups and to councils and to government and folks is that, well, isn't the library going the way of the dinosaurs? I mean, isn't it like it's, you know, if you haven't been to the library lately, you do not know. It is the hub of the community, any one of the 13 communities. The technology available, the evolving number of services. You can get your passport there. You can do genealogy. You can be tutored. I mean, it's just a myriad of things. Did you know that there's actually a statistic? Over 2 million people visited our Stanislaus 13 libraries in 2016. Pretty good. Also, you may have noticed in the last year, increased hours availability for people. All right? So it is a vital part of our community. We don't ever see libraries leaving our communities. They are changing and evolving as our community is changing and evolving. Do we ever have any concerns? Occasionally. Why doesn't the county pay for it? Well, you know, if it was in the county, it would be part of general funds. So we kind of like the fact that it is protected. And if it was in the county, it would be a much less of a quality program. By having this protection, we are able to bring you the quality that you see at our libraries, from story times to all the other things I mentioned. What are we in now? We're in the campaign timeline, and the timeline is this. We're out speaking, trying to promote awareness, being ambassadors. We are also walking precincts. Hopefully you have seen some people. Hopefully you have seen a Measure S sign in Turlock. When I drive through, I'm always like, okay, how many did I count? All right, because that is indicator, and that we are spreading the word. So the mail-in ballots are going to go out October 9th. We vote on November 7th. And like I said, we have found great support thus far as we talk with community groups and government leaders. The B endorses many individuals and over 1,000 endorsements. So tonight, I just will leave you with one little quote. It's from Walter Cronkite. The library is a symbol of democracy, and whatever the cost, the price is cheap compared to that of an ignorant nation, which is why I'm here, and I am an ambassador, and I will continue to be for libraries. And also because we moved here to Turlock, and this is my community, has been since '87, and my goal is to give back everything that has been given here as a resident of this community. So we are requesting your endorsement in support of the 1/8 of a cent sales tax, which funds the Stanislaus County Libraries. So thank you. I don't know if there's questions or if there's anything else I should do.
Any questions or comments to that? That was awesome. Thank you so much. This is good. Thank you. Anybody else have any comments? She said it all.
Exactly. The only thing I could say is in behalf of the over 100 members of the Friends of the Turlock Library, I urge you to support Measure S. For the members, their children, grandchildren, and even a few great-grandchildren. We've got to keep our libraries open.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. I like it.
I guess that's it.
Perfect.
That's it.
Well, because we are, is there anything
No,
else?
that was
Well,
just-
because there is going to be a vote, I'm going to have to open public participation. If there's anyone in the public that would like to speak on behalf of this item or have any comments, they can come forward. All right, closing it, bringing it back. Comments and questions from the council on this item?
What could be a question?
I know, absolutely. Well, before I entertain any motions, I have an aunt that I'm very close with, and she goes in the back library, and she's there selling books, and she's there as a part of the library community. And then I'm honored to come every couple months and do story time. It's a great spot, and you hit it on the head. If you think that the library is archaic and a thing of the past, you haven't been there lately. So I challenge all of our residents to be there. And there's already a yes on Measure S sign in my yard, but so it indicates how I'm voting. But I'll entertain a motion on this one.
So moved.
Do I have a second? All right. We have a motion by Vice Mayor Dehart, second by Councilmember Scare. Clerk, please call the roll.
Supporting the extension of a 1/8 cent sales tax to fund the Stanislaus County Library. Councilmember Esquer,
Yes.
Councilmember Dehart,
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Mayor Soisek.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Thank you so much. Good luck with everything. Thank you. All right, moving on to item C. As this was brought forward last council meeting, and the vice mayor was chairing that, I'm going to turn it over to him to introduce the item and read it to us.
This particular item, item C, is a resolution supporting the resolution not in our community, which opposes any acts of discrimination. I will share with you before I read the resolution that I was deeply saddened that we had members of our community, members of our family, our friends, that felt it necessary to show up last meeting and share with us what has been happening with them in our community. They supplied a document for our consideration and staffing. It's been placed into the form of a resolution, which I'm about to read for you now, and we'll consider it in just a moment. Before the City Council of the City of Turlock, in the matter of supporting the resolution not in our community, opposing any acts of discrimination. Whereas bullying, harassment, and hate crimes have increased in cities and communities across America, and whereas the County of Stanislaus and the City of Turlock welcome and value diverse racial, ethnic, religious, and national backgrounds, and further recognize that our diversity is critical to the economic, cultural, and social well-being of our community. And whereas history has tragically taught us what happens when people stand silently by and allow acts of intolerance, hatred, and violence to occur. And whereas people often feel isolated, without hope, and helpless to do anything individually to end hate crimes. And whereas people in communities across our nation have stood up and successfully opposed any acts of discrimination committed against their neighbors. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Turlock and its elected representatives stand up against bigotry, hate-based groups, hate-based crime of all kinds within our organization and throughout the community, and declares that no one shall be discriminated against because of race, faith, ethnicity, national origin, legal status, gender, age, disability, sexual orientation, or any other real or perceived difference. Be it further resolved, the city of Turlock stands together with all people of good faith across the nation in an effort to push back the rising tide of bullying, harassment, racism, and hate crimes, to proclaim, not in our city, not in our country, not in our community, not in Turlock. Mr. Mayor, I turn it back to you for consideration.
Thank you so much, Vice Mayor. Appreciate it. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to anyone that has brought this forward to us originally from the last meeting, then come speak now before I open it for public comment. So if there's anyone from the audience. All right, perfect. With that, I'm going to open it for public comment. I have quite a few blue cards. If you would like to fill one out, that'd be great. Otherwise, you can come up, and we're going to have 5 minutes per person. Miss Kathy Dew, if you'd like to come up.
Kathy Dew, 3901 North Berkeley Avenue, here in Turlock. I have been a longtime resident of Turlock, and I'm 100% Chinese. I only say that because there's not a lot of Chinese here in town. And because of that, because to me, education and teaching people to knock back stereotypes and not be sucked into the idea that one Chinese person is like another Chinese person. I have conducted multiple years, well over 10 years, worth of Chinese New Year's presentations in my children's schools. I had many opportunities to share Chinese culture and information about what we are, what we do, not because I'm nationalistic at any means, but because I really believe that equality means understanding and reaching out and giving back to your community in such a manner that you know who I am. I'm not a stereotype to you. Now, I've had people say to me, the only Chinese people I know are the ones that I meet in the Chinese restaurant. Well, we're more than that. We're more than a menu. We are the fabric of this community. I've given back, my husband and I have given back to this community many times. The play park, the hospital, Stanislaus State. We've been dedicated community members with the Sears of Turlock. So when I see something like these alt-right stickers coming up, and I refer to them as cockroaches coming out from underneath a rock, and I see them trying to infect school children, junior high students, high school students with their wretched beliefs. It just hurts me to no end, because everything that I have done over the years to demonstrate willingness to give back, to stand up for my community. I love this community. Everything that I've done since I've been here, it can be ruined by someone's bad ideas because they don't like the color of your skin, or your race, or your religion, or your orientation, whatever. They just feel that being all white is all better. Not so. Not at all. And so please pass this resolution. Please join me in protecting our community from anybody who would even dare to creep out from under a rock and change somebody's mind about what ethnicity and equality means. Thank you.
Thank you. Jordan Alvarado. Jordan Alvarado.
Hello, Council. My name is Jordan Alvarado. I'm an undergraduate student at CSU Stanislaus. I've been commuting to the university for 3 years. And for the first 2.5 years, I've never ventured out of the university. And the reason I've been so hesitant is because the population within the university, about more than 50% are students of color, does not reflect the population outside of the university. But as I've explored Stanislaus and I've met the people here and I've felt embraced for who I am, for being trans, for being queer, for being a Filipino immigrant, I've felt like I belong here. But as the situation nationwide and in this community, and we've been seeing white supremacist stickers all around public spaces in our public education, and we even had a white supremacist student in our own campus. I felt like I got a dose of reality. I felt like my hesitation and the fears I've been feeling because I felt like it didn't belong, it felt like I was being exposed. And recently, the student was actually seen in the campus bathroom. And as you know, as students, we are very protecting and we are very supporting of our community, not only the students at Stanislaus, but also the community members outside who've been supporting us. But without the support of institutions like yours, we wouldn't feel like we want to be empowered by you voting for this resolution. I want to feel like the city council supports our community, supports our students, especially the marginalized people in this community. And that's all I gotta say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jordan. Mr. Frank Johnson? I thought I saw him earlier. There he is. And next will be Ann Strom, and then, yeah.
13th Street, Modesto, California, former president of finding out the needs. So we put ourselves in a position, well, I'm a leader. No, you're not. They'll make you the leader. And until we all realize that the next person sitting beside us, the person in front of us, the person behind us has made a shield for us, and only then can we become a shield for them. I hope you make the right decision, servants. Thank you.
Ann Strom.
Good evening. So racism, homophobia, Islamophobia, misogyny, and hate crimes aren't the hallmarks of monsters in our midst. They are actually the biases that we keep. They're the subtle actions or omissions that we make. They're the assumptions that we hold about people who might be different than ourselves. They're the behaviors we engage based on those biases and assumptions. They're woven into the very fabric of our society. Some are laws that we put in place. Some are the ways our institutions operate. Much are embedded in the foundation of our society. It's presuming that a person of color is incompetent based on his or her race. This might be the denial of a job because of some preconceived idea about the person in front of us. It's the comment about or to a person at the checkout counter, the bus stop, the classroom, the gym, the office, wherever. It's that comment that ensures that she or he or they know their place. This includes acting on the belief that visibly racial or ethnic minority citizens are foreigners. It is treating a person or group as lesser than ourselves. This is the decision to offer a lower wage to somebody because of who they are. This is the decision to charge a higher interest rate on a house or a car based on who they are. This is the decision to pull the trigger. It's the decision to stop life-saving medical procedures a little bit sooner. It's not telling a child about college opportunities or refusing admittance to the club. It is suggesting that someone might be more comfortable in a different neighborhood. In other words, it is those of us with privilege and power that maintain this status quo. And yes, it is our actions and inactions that have allowed for, once again, hatred to rise up from its haunches and gnaw at our souls. Well, this resolution, lost my place because I hit a button. Darn it. Well, this resolution is only symbolic. Its symbolism is important because it comes from you. By signing on to this, you are telling our community that we all count. You are telling our community that some don't actually count more than others. You are telling our community that it is not okay to make that joke, to assume that stereotype, to discriminate against someone, to target someone. When we cease socializing our children to believe in the superiority and inferiority of people, when we stop allowing ourselves to act on assumptions based on ignorance, and when we refuse to accept those behaviors in our presence, and when we tear down those laws and institutionalize bigotry and oppression, only then will we begin to reject the neo-Nazi ideology that offends our conscience. Until then, we, in our town, will have this resolution as a starting point to hold on to. So please, I hope that you sign that resolution.
Thank you. Ms. Donna Ensley. Ms. Donna Ensley.
Hi. Wow, Anne did a good job, didn't she? Whew. That's great. Thank you, Anne. Thank you for letting me speak. The last time I spoke to you a few weeks ago, I became unraveled in what I was talking about because I sort of got off on a different tangent. I talked about my dad being a veteran and having served in World War II to defeat the concepts of Nazism and white supremacy that were raging across Europe. But before that, my dad's dad, I forgot to tell you, came as a political refugee from Germany after World War I. Knowing what was coming in his country, he fled here. His name was Schmidt. He went through Ellis Island. He changed his name to Americanize it to Smith, S-M-I-D-T, a name no one ever heard of before and was never able to spell my entire life. But, you know, you live with those things. And then I was married and lived for 4 years in Germany. So this all sort of, this big bundle of stuff. I visited, on my honeymoon of all times, a concentration camp near Munich called Dachau. And there I was able to see what a concentration camp looked like firsthand. It was one of the good concentration camps because although they had a gas chamber, they never had to use it. Amazing. Well, not amazing when you saw where they had to live and how the people were stacked up on shelves and where there was no food or health, where there were life-size pictures of cadavers hanging off of bunks. So when I came to Turlock, I came to a safe place until I drive down Kilroy Avenue right next to Pitman High School. And there I saw one of those little teeny tiny signs on a 25 miles per hour speed limit. And I thought, oh my God, what was that? Was that one of those? And I stopped my car, got out of the car, walked up to it, and sure enough, there's a little sticker there that says AR on it. Alt-right. Nazis. And I thought, my stomach fell, and I thought, this can't be happening in the town that I chose to live in. With my dad, a veteran, with my grandfather, an immigrant from Germany, to flee that sort of stuff. So that's where I got empowered, met Danielle, and we came here a couple of weeks ago. I want you to know that this is a really personal thing for me. I've read a lot about what happened during World War II. I know it started with just a really small crack, and it grew and grew until it became a situation where they had to build concentration camps to kill their enemies. We're going to start at a small point with a little resolution from you guys, but it's going to say a lot to the city. And I hope when you pass this resolution that you also have the courage to make it really public everywhere. I'd sure love to see it included in my bills from the city. I'd love to see it included in articles in the newspaper. Make it public. Make everybody know that we're not going to allow that kind of behavior here in Turlock. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Danielle Ray Reyes. Daniel.
Little token for my son. Good evening, City Council and members of the Turlock community. So today's a historic day. So today we have the opportunity to show the nation and the world the greatness of Turlock and the people of Turlock and what it embodies. Today is a day that will be immortalized in Turlock's history. It's going to be the day when Turlock stood up and said, "We will not take this." So in this journey of writing this resolution and meeting these same like-minded people who are also on the train for equality and social justice in our community, I never knew what a hard journey it would be to trek. I've been called a nigger more times in my life in the last 2 weeks than I can count. Being called a crazy liberal, so many names under the sun that I won't repeat. I have been shunned by members of my workforce and my neighbors, and publicly humiliated on social media. But here I stand in front of you. There are many times when I wanted to give up this journey, but luckily I had a support of many people who pushed me along the way. Now, my biggest support was my children and my power as a mother. So, as I was leaving tonight around my children's bedtime, my son Camden, who is 4, gave me these handcuffs. He said, "Mommy, give them to the city. Give them to the city so they can tell those bad guys to stop behaving badly, so they can lock up the criminals." Now, this might not be a criminalized act yet in Turlock, but if we allow things like this to continue to take place in our community and allow discriminations of all walks for all people and not pass this resolution, then we are saying something to our community. So today I will ask you each a question. Will you stand and publicly denounce this behavior and make a public statement condemning these actions in our community? Will you denounce the alt-right? Will you fight for those who are marginalized in our community? You see, it's not about passing legislation or a simple vote of yes or no or I'm in favor. It's about speaking out against hate. Because to say nothing is to make an even bigger statement to our community. What will your statement be today? What will your legacy be? What will you tell your children when they ask you on what side of history you stood today? So I ask you the question again. Councilmember Jacobs, Councilmember Bublak, Mayor Sosith, Vice Mayor DeHart, Councilmember Esquer, will you stand with me? Will you stand with our community? Will you protect us? Will you lock up the bad guys with this resolution? Will you protect my son, who will grow up in this community as a black male? The choice is yours. What will you choose to stand for today?
Thank you, Daniel. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to address the council on this item? All right, seeing none, bring it back to the council for further discussion and consideration. Council members? Yes, Councilman Jacob.
If I can, Danielle, I just want to thank you for your courage today. It's inspiring. One of my favorite quotes is, "The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing." And I know that this is only symbolic, but I hope that you know that you have a partner in the city, and however we can help, however we can put a stop to this nonsense, which is exactly what it is. You have a partner here with us, and so thank you so much for your courage, for all the follow-up that you've done to help bring this resolution to us. And it's an unfortunate thing to have to vote on, but I'm very honored to be able to support it tonight.
Any other council members? Yes, Councilman Scare.
Yes, it took a lot of thought here because I was trying to figure out what to say tonight. And I realized there's a lot of people out there a lot more educated, a lot smarter than me. And they've already said it. Martin Luther King said, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." Theodore Franklin said, "Justice consists not in being neutral, but between right and wrong, but in finding out the right and upholding it wherever found against the wrong." And also Benjamin Franklin, this one I think really brings it in. "Justice will not be served until those who are unaffected are as outraged as those who are." So my comment is, if not me, then who? If not now, then when?
Any other council members? Yes, Councilman Bublak.
So I was asked several weeks ago before this to sit on an inclusion diversity committee at the university, which I absolutely agreed to, and tomorrow they meet again. As well, that makes Mr. Johnson me at the university. So from this day, as I go out to the community and want to be a part of everybody and every issue to see what's going on out there and to support the right, and everyone should be equal and treated fairly. Thank you.
Good. Vice Mayor.
There's been a lot of discussion about diversity. And what I'm about to say is not about me. But I am a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant male. Hello? Conservative Christian. Husband to but one wife for 48 years. father of 2 children and their loving spouses, 10 grandchildren, and 3 great-grandchildren. I'm a retired veteran of the United States Marine Corps. And oh, by the way, a senior. I think that just about hits every protected class that we should have any concern over this evening. And I would offer this. I have never been as consumed by an issue except by this. Formal, informal, legal teeth, no legal teeth, regardless. Bullying, harassment, intimidation, discrimination, all of those Asians must stop in our nation. And I would enthusiastically join the effort to ensure that this does not continue in our county, in our city, in our Turlock. Thank you.
Well, I'm especially proud of the comments from my fellow council members tonight. We're not mincing words. We're not taking words out of this resolution. We're accepting them wholeheartedly, and I think that that's the appropriate reaction to this resolution. A while ago, it was about a year ago, City Hall opened its doors to some refugees, to Afghans, to Syrians that had come here for a Civics Day lesson to explain to them some of the laws and rights and protections of Turlock. And as I watched city staff sit here and talk to about 60 or 70 of these families, kids playing in the back and translators translating and just engaging with them about what Turlock is, it's exactly what right looks like. And, you know, I posted on Facebook just a picture of me with a family, an Afghan family, which is near and dear to my heart because I worked with so many Afghan interpreters when I was over there. But out here looking at fire trucks and police vehicles and having a good time. And I said, this is why I ran for mayor. And some interpreted that differently, that I was neglecting roads and neglecting water and that I ran for something other than that. And I'm the infrastructure mayor for sure, but I'm also the social infrastructure mayor as well. And we need to make sure that we welcome all into our community, whether they be the least, the lost, and lonely, whether they're first generation or fourth generation Americans, Syrian, Mexican, Swedish, Norwegian, Portuguese, it doesn't matter. We're one community, and I'm very proud of this council tonight. I'm proud of the community for coming and talking about this tough issue. I'm sad that you have to do that, but I'm very, very proud that this is the reaction so far and that we're going to make a stand and make it very public. Donna, we will make it very public as City Council, so thank you so much. So with that, I'll entertain a motion. And do I have a second? Perfect. All right, so we have a motion by Councilmember Scare and second by Councilmember Jacob. Clerk, please call the roll.
Supporting the resolution, not in our community, opposing any acts of discrimination. Councilmember Esquer,
Yes.
Councilmember Dehart,
Absolutely, positively, yes.
Councilmember Bublak,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Mayor Soisek.
Yes, resolution passes 5-0. Thank you so much for doing that. Thank you. Thank you so much. Absolutely. All right, moving on to other items of the day. Items D, E, and F will all be effective October 1st. Moving on to the appointment, Stanislaus Regional Water Authority Director. I'd like to nominate Vice Mayor Dehart for that directorship. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Jacob, seconded by Councilmember Scare. Clerk, please call the roll.
Appointing Councilmember Dehart as a Director of the Stanislaus Regional Water Authority, effective October 1, 2017. Councilmember Esquer,
Yes.
Councilmember Dehart?
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak?
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob?
Yes.
Mayor Soisa?
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Moving on to the West Turlock Subbasin Groundwater Sustainability Agency, the alternate. I'm going to move for Councilmember Scare. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
All right, we have a motion by Vice Mayor DeHart, seconded by Councilmember Jacob. Clerk, please call the roll.
Appointing Councilmember Esquer as an alternate member of the West Turlock Subbasin Groundwater Sustainability Agency, effective October 1, 2017. Councilmember Esquer?
Yes.
Councilmember Dehart?
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak?
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob?
Yes.
Mayor Soisa?
Yes, the motion carries 5-0. And finally, the City County Liaison Committee member, I'm going to move for I'm going to nominate Councilmember Jacob for this position. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? No second?
Second.
There it is. Motion by Vice Mayor DeHart, seconded by Councilmember Scare. Clerk, please call the roll. Yes, comment, please.
It's kind of ironic to me that we just discussed people being treated differently. You just took a female off of 3 boards, and there was no other female on any of the boards. I just want to make a point that we need to think about what we're doing. If we're going to say that we want inclusion and that we don't want people to be treated differently, then I'm not sure where we're going with this, but proceed.
Absolutely, and I appreciate that, and it has nothing to do with you being female. There needs to be more equity among our council members. Councilmember Scare had only 1 appointment, and so this came to my attention, so we're trying to make sure that there's more equitable appointments among the council members, so I think that's where it is. All right, clerk, we have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Appointing Councilmember Jacob as a member of the City County Liaison Committee, effective October 1, 2017. Councilmember Esquer?
Yes.
Councilmember Dehart?
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak?
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob?
Yes.
Mayor Soisa?
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Thank you so much. Moving on to special briefings, we have none. And moving on to staff updates, policy goals and implementation plan. We have no updates tonight. Administrative Services Department, do we have any updates tonight? Yep. All right, perfect. Development Services Department, Measure L Planning. Saw you moving, so I didn't know that was you.
No, only one department at a time. It's a real quick update. We continue to work on the West Main project in-house. We're currently halfway through the plan and profile utility plans. We do these type of plans to ensure that we don't have underground conflicts where pipelines run into other pipelines. So anyways, we're working on that. We're still pushing to have the plan specs and the bid package ready to go in October, with construction starting in the spring. And there's been no change from my last update on the Golden State and East Avenue. I'm still waiting on some utility information, so we make sure that we get the scope of work right on the East Avenue. And we're still investigating the idea of a design build concept for Golden State. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions or comments? All right, thank you so much. Fire Department Public Safety Briefing, Chief Carlson.
Mayor, members of the council, in front of you should have your incident summary report dated September 26th, and this encompasses the dates from August 3rd through September 18th. And this will be on our website in the morning for everybody else. Real quickly, if you'll go through the first few pages, you'll see, for those of you that like lots and lots of data, included all the types of calls, the places, and all that. But if you would skip to page 5, we can highlight some of the incidents. Through the period, we had a total of 820 emergency calls, including 3 building fires, 2 vehicle fires, 8 grass and brush fires, and 41 vehicle collisions. The next page highlights the districts, each of the 4 districts, and they're all split pretty evenly again. Highlight a couple of the major calls we had during that period. We had a duplex fire in Councilmember Esquer's area. Came in the early morning hours. A unit that had just been vacated caught fire. Firefighters were able to save the other unit, but extensive damage to the one unit. The other one I'd like to highlight occurred August 21st. It was a 6-vehicle collision on Highway 99, including involving a big rig and 6 other vehicles. And I know the mayor is pretty familiar with this call. During that call, a 3-year-old child was pinned underneath the semi, underneath the tire. for approximately 35 minutes while firefighters worked to extricate him from that call. And I just would like to call out all the agencies that participated in that call and helped out, because it wasn't just us. Turlock Police, CHP, AMR, CalStar Air Ambulance. The child was flown to Madera. Specifically, the tow companies in town that we begin to do training with, where they have the heavy wreckers and able to lift. I don't know if semis are very heavy, and equipment to lift a semi off of a child is very meticulous and must be done just right. So we had just actually completed training with e-towing at that time, who uses a heavy wrecker, and which actually facilitated the extrication of the child. In addition, Muni was on scene Caltrans for several hours. So it's a pretty significant call. We don't see a lot of, but we are seeing more and more of them. So we are preparing to mitigate more and more of them through our squad program, and I'll touch on that a little bit more as we go towards training. Also, this in this last period, strike team season was very busy. Turlock sent a total of 10 firefighters on 5 separate incidents to both California and Montana to assist with the wildland fires there. Firefighters were deployed and conducted everything from structure protection to handline construction to air operation support, and everything in between. Something that's not on your briefing as of now, one of our captains, Captain Kane Packwood, was just deployed the other day to Puerto Rico as part of a Type 1 incident management team to assist with the devastation there from the hurricanes. Some good news, touch real briefly, we were just received word last week that we were awarded a grant in the amount of $312,000 for the purchase of some radio equipment. That'll be coming up on your next council docket for consideration for acceptance. But the good news is that money was already budgeted this year to buy the radios because we need them anyway, so that's money that can be returned. We'd also like to acknowledge our 9/11 ceremony that happened during this period that was led by Chief Taloni, and we would definitely appreciate everybody that was in attendance at Station 1. Quick training highlights. Again, we're focusing on a lot on our high-risk, low-frequency calls, such as the call on the freeway. In the upcoming month, we are going to be sending individuals through hazmat training. So these are 6 separate 40-hour courses, so 240 hours to become hazmat technician certified. And we are also partnering with Muni to send people to a confined space rescue class. So more these different types of areas of expertise that we are seeing now, and trying to get more people certified to be able to mitigate them. Of 10,960 pounds of debris taken to scavenger during that period. And on September 14th alone, from one address, as you'll see on your pictures, they removed over 2 tons of refuge from one address and another 240 pounds from another. So they've been very busy with everything. And their highlights are broken down on page 12 and 13 as well. Social media, we are, again, very busy with that. I'd just like to point out, as far as that, our pink shirt, t-shirt campaign, as you saw this morning, is taking off. You'll see a lot of that on social media. And so if your organization participates, our crew will be out taking pictures, putting that all over there as kind of a challenge to everybody to support that very worthy cause. With that, be happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right. Any questions or comments for Chief Carlson? No. Absolutely. Any questions, comments from the audience? Thank you. Absolutely. Very thorough indeed. Moving on. Municipal Services Department. Anything? All right. Perfect. Parks, Recreation, Public Facilities. All right. And Police Department. Ooh. Head of the month. Let's do this. All right. Hey, Glenna. How are you?
Good evening, Councilman and Mayor. How are you today?
Good, good, good.
Pet of the Month, as usual, sponsored by our T-Maps. All the pets that are adopted for the Pet of the Month is no charge to the new adopting family. It includes spay, neuter, microchip, your first vaccine, rabies shot, and a license if you're a City of Turlock resident. So if those of you who remember Molly, she was last month's Pet of the Month. The reason why I don't have a picture of her with her family is because she has been relocated to the fine state of Oregon. She has been adopted, but the family hasn't sent us a new picture yet.
Okay.
So Molly is enjoying cooler weather there in Oregon. This is our new friend, pet of the month. This is Jake. He is approximately 6 years old. He's a neuter male. It's a Queensland mix. Don't let his age fool you. He has a lot of spunk and life there. He is such a good buddy with all the friends. His picture actually is natural. We didn't have to make him pose or anything for that. So he's a real sweetheart. So this month for October is the National Adopt a Shelter Pet Month. So across the nation, all animal shelters are in the promotion of adopting to get people out to adopt animals instead of buying them from pet stores. So how we're going to promote that is that any dog adoption for the month of October is only $40, including the spay and neuter, microchip, rabies shot, and license. And our cat adoption fee, excluding the little costume there, but is $20, and that includes spay, neuter, and a microchip. Again, the shelter's open Monday through Saturday, 10 to 2, and we're located 801 South Walnut. If you have any animal service needs, you can give us a call at 656-3140. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so
Any
much,
questions?
Glenna. No, I appreciate it. Love Pet of the Month. Good job.
Thank you.
Love it. All right, Chief Anfar, Public Safety Briefing.
As always, Glenna, thank you so much for everything you do out there. We wouldn't have the animal control services that we have without you and your staff, so thank you. Mayor, council members, thank you. Before you, I'll be presenting to you our statistical report for the month of August. Not doing this one yet. So before you on the statistical report, and for the members of the public in the back, there are copies of it if you'd like to also look through it. It'll be posted on our website starting tomorrow. Before you, we have the top 3 calls for service. Referenced for year-to-date and actually for the month of August from 2016 to 2017. You'll see the numbers are staying rather consistent in regards to suspicious person being number 1, disturbance, and then the 3 spot changes. We've had a 5% increase for this year in August versus last year's August. Year-to-date, you'll see a 9% increase from this year versus last year's suspicious person type calls. Burglaries by type in the next column, you can see that we've had a 17% decrease for year-to-date on auto burglaries, and looking just for the month of August for 2017 versus 2016, significant decreases in reported auto burglaries, residential burglaries, and commercial burglaries. However, for the year on the commercial burglary side, looking at 2017 versus 2016 year-to-date, you show an 11% increase on commercial burglary and a 31% increase on burglary other, which is your locations such as sheds, etc., that are outside of the residential areas. They're graphed for you on the bottom to help you visually see the pictures. Response times you can see for August 2016 versus 2017, our priority 1 calls. This is an immediate threat to life. This is our highest priority. 2017, we had 69 calls, and we're sitting at 8 minutes. For 2017, 2016 year-to-date, we've taken 553 calls in 2017 versus 459, and our response time increased, looks like by 8 seconds. But in response times, considering looking at 2016, it's a plus 2% increase. Top 3 calls for service for patrol by voting districts. You'll notice on the bottom, suspicious person is number 1 through all 4 districts. Number 2 is disturbance verbal for District 1, trespassing for District 2, and investigations is our follow-up investigations as we progress through. I'll just keep moving forward. There's quite a bit of information here, and I know council's has a lot to go tonight, so I'm going to try to get through this as quickly as possible. Service demands, calls for service for August 16 versus August 17. You'll notice that we did have a significant increase. Year-to-date, we're plus 8%. Year-to-date, calls for services at 32,610. Moving over to self-initiated, that's where the officers initiate their own calls based on requests for extra patrols and so forth. We've had a 7% increase there. We're at 39,521 self-initiated calls. Reports taken, you'll see there's an increase of 4%. Citations issued, we have a 26% decrease. However, that's still an improvement over the last months reported. And the reason for that is the previous year we had a sergeant and 2 officers for patrol. We had that sergeant resign and move to a teaching job. And we had 1 officer go from patrol or from traffic back to patrol. They're just up to their training and completed all their training, so we're seeing increases coming forth in regards to citations from the traffic unit. But if you look at the citations themselves issued, you'll see that Field Operations Patrol is issuing quite a few versus last year's numbers. Special deployments. Our regional apprehension team, we had an operation on August 18th. 11 arrests, 9 booked in jail, stolen property located, identity theft investigations have been initiated. That identity theft is quite substantial. So it's going to take quite some time to contact all the people of all the property we found. School traffic safety, I updated you on the last council meeting, and it's here in regards to our additional and continuing efforts in that, and we'll cover some more in the next presentation. Proactive patrol efforts, Animal Services has had 293 individual residents for positive license enforcement contact. Corps officers continue their extra patrols throughout the parks and downtown. Along with other city ordinances, Animal Services has hosted a rabies clinic on the 19th. Volunteers and police services have assisted the post office. Mayor, you were included in this one. We've had all these mailbox thefts, and for citizens, please be checking your mailboxes on a daily basis. Don't let mail store up there. We've had a few break-ins, and we've had some luck and some arrests, but our volunteers were able to get out and place several U.S. Postal Service stickers on the mailboxes in assistance to the postal inspector's request. You saw the Pet of the Month. National Night Out was a huge success. We had 2,180 estimated participants, 35 registered block parties. It was the largest turnout of my staff in the 28 years I've been working here at Turlock. It was amazing. We had quite a few people. We've also had a huge increase in the amount of money that was donated to National Night Out. A big success. We're currently going through our Citizens Academy. It's a 9-week course. We have 19 citizens that signed up for it. We're working through our neighborhood watch captains, trying to encourage and re-engage from last year's meetings with them. They've kind of, you know, you have to keep re-engaging on neighborhood watch. You have your one meeting and then you don't have one, and without the meetings, neighborhood watch won't work. You have to stay in touch with your neighbors. You have to know what's going on. So we're pushing and re-engaging on that. You'll notice our rape aggression course is on, and we actually are in the process right now of having one. Vehicle accidents, Councilmember Bluback, you asked for this. The statistics are there. Looking at August 2016 versus August 2017 total accidents, we had 1 more this year than we had last year, so it shows a 1% increase. What's significant is the injury accidents have increased by 19% for the month of August 2017 versus 2016. Looking at year-to-date, it's a 26% increase in injury accidents. Total accident increased by 8%. Our bicycle accidents have increased by 46%. And percentages, when you think about that, it's 13 versus 19, but it's still 46%. So we've had a dramatic increase in several of those areas. Pedestrian accidents, 107% increase year-to-date. And we'll talk more about that in my next presentation in regards to what we're doing to try to combat some of these numbers. You'll notice for 2017 versus 2016 for the month, our primary traffic collision factors. That's what we determine when we do the traffic investigation. What was the causation of the traffic accident? Number 1, unsafe lane change. Driving under the influence is the second one for 2016, and then speeding for 2016 was number 3. But for 2017, we have unsafe lane change, failure to yield, stop sign, and speeding. Moving on, you'll see that our social media efforts continue to expand and grow. We're almost at 10,000 likes at Facebook. Twitter has expanded to over 5,000. Instagram is at 1,200. Next door, we had 170 new members, 14% claimed households in Turlock, so we're at almost 5,000 there. And moving on, this is an important one. Our Part 1 crimes. I did a little change in here, Council. I don't know if you're going to notice it. You'll notice the last column, 5-year to date average. And this is the reason why. We sent our crime analyst to a course in New Orleans, which was a national course for crime analysts. And she came back with, and let me back up a little bit. Remember when I talked about the dentist burglaries, how many we had in such a short period of time and how it was going to skew our numbers? Well, when she attended this course, one of the course objectives was to have and demand meaningful statistics. So going year by year, 2017 versus 2016, you could have a very bad year or a very good year. In 2017, a very bad, your numbers are going to be skewed. So how do you find a normal? A 5-year average can give you a normal. So I asked her to go back, and she didn't like it when I asked her this, but it's extra work. But I asked her to go back and give me a 5-year average of our Part 1 crimes. And those crimes, for those of you, there are homicide, rapes, robberies, aggravated assault, burglary, larceny, vehicle theft. These are required reporting to the Department of Justice and FBI. So you'll notice on a 5-year to date average, the numbers there. So if you look at 16 versus 17 year to date, the final column where what our totals are showing, we're running 9%. Negative in the 9% for our crime rates, and that's over last year. But you look at our 5-year, and we're still 9%. So we're running right at a norm if you think about a 5-year average. So it's really important number. It's a really interesting number. So it's something that I wanted to add there just for your information, because you can turn around and look at your homicides, and you show a 60% decrease. That's because in 2016 we had 5. This year we've had 2, thank God, but it shows a 60% decrease, when in actuality the norm is 29% over 5 years because of the fluctuations that we have. So I just wanted to point that out to you. With that, I will stop for any questions that you may have.
Any question or comments for the chief? I know, right?
I'm sorry. I'm trying, we're working to try to get these to you. There's a lot of information here, and maybe get it to you hopefully 3 or 4 days before council so you can go through it. It's a discussion that we've had, but there's a lot of information that continues to come out. So doing the best we can, we'll get it out to you sooner, but there's a lot there.
No, we appreciate it, Chief. Thank you so much. Thanks. Moving on to Traffic Task Force.
My partner, Mr. Pidcock. Thank you, sir. He's my backup. No, he's my partner. So just to give a little history, Mr. Pidcock, please, we're gonna try to tag team this and get through this. There it goes. We presented in traffic, and the police department, along with Mr. Pidcock's team of traffic engineers, presented a traffic safety plan last year. We'll call it phase 1 of the plan, which developed some education and some enforcement aspects, but they were very short-lived. There was nothing sustained about it in regards to what the police department was doing. We did 1 DUI checkpoint, a couple DUI checkpoints, and so forth. With the recent accidents that we've had with pedestrians, bicyclists, and so forth, Vice Mayor DeHart, thank you, sir, for taking chair on that committee, met with the police department and engineering and several community members, including the school district, Turlock Unified, Cal State Stanislaus, our service providers, Turlock Mission Gospel, United Samaritan, and so forth, to develop a plan on how can we address some of these issues that we're seeing in our community. Vehicle accidents, vehicle versus pedestrians, vehicle versus bicyclists, just accidents happening throughout the city of Turlock, and some of the numbers we ran there. And the task force got together, and we started coming up with ideas. And in our meetings came up with plans on how we're going to move forward. With those plans, we immediately started enacting them. So you're going to see things in here that you may have seen at the last council meeting, because we didn't wait. We saw good ideas and we put them into effect. So with that, I wanted to give a little history. So we went to a multi-pronged approach. Previously, we had education, enforcement, and engineering. We've added a few more. We wanted to look at a multitude of different ways of approaching this. This is our 4th of July parade. Councilmember, me and you are in the back. I kind of pointed that to you. Yeah, I think so. It was a very hot day. But we wanted to talk about education, enforcement, engineering, evaluations, and partnership. Extremely important topics to cover. And I'll try to go through these screens, and while I'm doing so, if you have questions, please stop me and ask. I know I want to get through this because I know it's a lot of information that I've got to provide you folks. So moving on, we have our education boards. These are our electronic signage boards that we received through the Office of Traffic Safety grants. We've been placing them in key areas throughout the city, and those areas have been determined to be from our hotline tips, for our traffic hotlines, complaints from citizens, our own officers advising us of issues, engineering advising us of issues, a multitude of different information coming in, and they're moved every 10 to 12 days depending on where those needs come up. We display the general traffic safety messages in high traffic areas, in those areas that we've had some serious collisions. You may have noticed them on Monte Vista before school starting up. You may notice them on Golden State regarding DUIs. They're on West Main regarding other DUI type enforcements. We continue to utilize them for other educational issues in regards to drunk driving awareness, and we put them near the bars downtown because that's where people tend to consume more of their alcohol. During football games now, we're starting to put them at events that we're seeing that may have a larger audiences there enjoying the football games and so forth. We've placed them near school zones, and not only these signs, but we've worked with CSUS and the Turlock Unified School District in utilizing the school district's messaging signs throughout the city. So those started way before school even came up. So we've been doing those signages as well. Moving on, we've got two traffic trailers. Two, thank you. We've got two traffic trailers, and as you can see, they're highly visible. They'll post a speed limit sign, and these are part of the education program because they tell the driver how fast they're going. There may or may not be an officer on the other side. This one, the motorcycle officer is there. You can be cited from those folks, so if you see that, don't think just because, oh, I'm doing 50 and it's a 40 mile an hour, that it's a warning to slow down. Well, yeah, it's a reminder to you to slow down, but be aware if the officer is there at that point, he will stop you and give you a ticket. So we want to use education, but also be advised there is a possibility of a citation coming with it. The speed complaints have come from all over the city. The school district has been very much involved in notifying us of speed issues, and so has the college. Monte Vista is a huge problem with speed. Christofferson is a huge problem with speed, and we've concentrated our efforts there along with the University Police Department in assisting us. Decoy car, what is that? It's a marked patrol unit. Previous city manager Gary Hampton authorized me to retain one of our cars that were going out. So we call it a decoy car. We put those cars in areas that, through complaints again, or what officers have perceived to be high traffic, high speed areas. And you may see a patrol car parked alongside the roadway. Its lights may be on, it may be off. There may be an officer in it, there may not be. We call it a decoy because you'll never know. So if you see it, slow down. And that's part of the education process. And we're trying to multiply our ability to get out and let people know. Because here's the bottom line, and we all know it. Funds are tight. So we're doing what we can to get the message out, to continue to educate, and to make people start guessing, thinking about what they're doing, because this is a conscientious choice that people are making whether they violate the laws or not. Social media, our outreach has expanded tenfold, including utilization of the school district and the CSUS systems in regards to interactions, education, enforcement. You will have noticed, for those of you that have liked Turlock Police Department or the school district, that you have seen these popping up on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. I know. I'm trying. Instagram, thank you. And they're popping up on timed events. We're reaching out to the public, and we're doing it in a big way. We're trying to educate. We're trying to make sure people know, slow down. Your car is not a phone booth. You know, put the doggone thing away. You can wait till you get home to make that phone call. You know, pay attention. We've got an officer here that's during our back-to-school enforcement and education and safety, he's talking to that little young man. God forbid that that little young man doesn't make it to his next class because somebody's not paying attention. So we're trying to educate, we're trying to get this information out, and we reached 195,000 hits. That's big, and you're probably sitting there thinking, what's the population of Turlock? 78,000. So what's that mean? Turlock is an economic engine, and if Turlock is not safe for the community to drive in, people aren't going to come here. That tells you you have people in Turlock, Modesto, Patterson, Newman, Gustine, Hillmar, Denair, all over. They're getting the message because you cannot just educate people in Turlock. It's education for our motoring community. We continued our education, and this is something I shared at the last council meeting. We knew the Vista apartments were going to open up at CSUS Stanislaus, and they're young adults. They're still kids. For me, they're still kids. We need to educate them, and you're probably thinking, they're in college. What do you need to educate them about? Ladies and gentlemen, we're educating people that are 75 years old still on what to do when operating a motor vehicle and how dangerous it is. We worked with Vista Apartments management, and you're seeing a lot of work here, and I'll give kudos to the people who really did it. But working with them, we identified jaywalking locations, and Mike and his crew did the same thing, council. We went out, we determined, guess what? They're going to be running across the street at Monte Vista. We put high visibility crosswalks in, and Mike will talk more about that, but we partnered with the management, we partnered with CSUS, who came up with their own flyers and also had officers stationed in areas of the campus to address students who were thinking about running across Monte Vista, and use the crosswalks. We handed out over 600 flyers along with our social media. We did have our traffic enforcement. We brought our site team in. We had 5 arrests, 54 citations, and 1 vehicle was towed. That was in 4 hours, folks. That was in 4 hours. And we had several officers that couldn't come. This is a county-wide task force that we participate in because we only have 2 traffic officers and we have our patrol officers, but we try to do what we can with force multiplication, and we do this through involvement with our fellow agencies, and we also go help them too. So I wanted to share this with you. Enforcement continued with directed patrols at schools, and this began the first day of school and has continued. We work with our traffic unit and our patrol unit, and I spoke to council about our traffic unit and the training that they get. They get a little bit more training in regards to what to look for, how to identify individuals that maybe or may not be using their cell phones. You probably think, oh, they're probably doing this. Well, no, there's a lot of other telltale signs when someone's on their cell phone. You know, they're getting smart. You know, they have these little magnets that they click to their dash or on their consoles, and you see this going on, you know what they're doing. And our patrol officers don't look for that kind of stuff. So we've been doing quite a bit training. First day of school, from the first day of school till now, we've had 160 extra patrols, 68 stops, and 26 parking tickets. Our future operations, we have had crosswalk stings. We're going to continue to do crosswalk stings. They'll be done on an overtime basis. Speed stings, and we use the word stings. They're directed enforcements. We will set up decoys, so if you see someone in a crosswalk, stop and stay stopped until they're out of that crosswalk. If you see a vehicle stop on a 2-lane roadway like Gear Road and you're wondering, why is he stopped there? Don't wonder, just stop. You're required by law to stop when a vehicle is stopped in that roadway. You never know who's crossing. Could be someone in a wheelchair. It could be a little kid that you can't see, so stop. We'll be using red light stings and high visibility school enforcement, which we continue to do every single day. Our traffic unit is going to the briefings. We're doing continuous updates in regards to those briefings and keeping our patrol staff updated on what we expect and what they can expect in regards to enforcement. And we're sharing our data so our patrol officers know what's going on, because patrol officers, as you can see from the previous report, have had a significant impact in the amount of citations and enforcements that we can do. Auxiliary motor officers. We have people that have been ex-motor officers, so we're keeping them on board. We have a couple of training bikes, and they're going to be working on overtime and coming and trying to work on their days off in order to supplement the traffic unit. There's a cost benefit of it in regards to continued training, so if we can keep their training up and maybe down the line things get better, we'll be good to go and get them started up rather quickly. Our core team is now going to be addressing some more of our traffic issues, so we're asking more of that team. That's our community outreach and engagement team. So they do a multitude of things besides regular patrol duties, and they'll be reaching out and doing more enforcements. So under the evaluations, enhanced collision tracking, what that means is from August 1st, all pedestrian bicycle collisions reviewed by the traffic sergeant. It's going to be done daily. Every single accident is now being touched by the traffic sergeant, who is going to be gathering that information on a daily basis and keeping it readily available and sharing that information immediately with Mike's crew. No longer are we waiting for the police report to be done, entered into the data systems, and then forwarded up. We're taking it immediately and grabbing that data so we can react faster to it. I will tell you, we did an evaluation on all the accidents that we were seeing, and we could find no specific pattern. Mike?
Exactly. We actually, I took a map of the city of Turlock and I placed a dot on Google Map of every pedestrian or bicycle accident, and there was not one repeat location. It's just here, 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 here. It's all over town. In my opinion, it really comes down to really not paying attention. And as the chief stated, you know, and it happened to me today. I came to a stop, let someone cross on a crosswalk. Person behind me zipped around and darn near hit them. And it's just, we need to slow down. We need to, you know, pay attention. And so anyways, we're just constantly trying to figure out how best to do this. And one of the great things about this data share is we're going to get this information quicker, and we're going to be able to hopefully do some more detailed analysis quicker and get more improvements done quicker.
So part of the evaluation process is we wanted to see from the beginning of August 1st, 2017 until now, September 20th roughly, we wanted to compare the activities with our new deployment efforts versus what happened last year. So here are some numbers. We have 1,280% increase of extra patrols. That's 1,280% increase of extra patrols over 2016. Traffic stops, we've increased 160% over 2016. Our parking sites went down 25%. We believe, my traffic lieutenant and field operations captain, and I believe it also, by more officers moving straight out of our patrol briefings in the morning, going straight out and choosing a school site to help when we can, has produced a significant impact in those motorists choosing to stop in the roadway and drop their kids off, because it is a parking site, and those have significantly dropped. So the evaluation process of looking at all this information immediately, not waiting for technology to do the data entry and then spit it out, getting back to the good old way of doing it, counting numbers, set pattern. So our thought was, we have all of these school sites, all of this concentration of kids, parents coming into one area, a known time, high propensity for traffic accidents, safety. We chose the school sites to dump all of our resources in as soon as we could in the morning. And that's where these stats came from. And we believe we've had a significant impact. You'll see the traffic stops have increased dramatically, and there's your parking citations. So under the evaluation, this is something that was interesting. We have a traffic deployment strategy besides this one, and it was created in 2008, last updated in 2011. Didn't even know that till we started looking at this. It's now going to be updated annually. It's currently in the process. Our school traffic plan, you can see up there. It was last done in 2011. Since that time, the schools have had multiple changes in a lot of their school sites. We had a gentleman here talking about Lyons in Colorado. Significant change on that site in regards to what the school has done that has impacted that roadway. And I'll let Mike talk a little bit more in regards to that. But these are things we didn't know about until we started this project and this evaluation section. So these are going to be updated annually and reviewed annually. And here you go. This is yours, Mike.
Thanks. So what are we doing on the engineering side? All plans, whether they're created internally whether they're coming in from the development community, we're looking at every single set of plans with the safety of vehicles, pedestrians, and bicycles. We want to make sure that we're taking the opportunity when the plans come in to make the corrections and the needed changes so that we can enhance our safety. We're also looking to add and enhance our network, our bicycle network or our walking network, in accordance with our general plan and our active transportation plan. These plans, they spend a lot of time and effort. Thank you. They've spent a lot of time and effort, and the council spent a lot of time reviewing and approving these documents, and we want to make sure that we are following those plans to the letter. We're also enhancing safety through special projects. An example of a special project was the Walnut Road median project where we put the fence in there. We reached out to the police department, said, so how's that working out? And what we've heard from the police department is that, hey, that works very well. We should consider doing that in more locations. I'll talk more a bit about that here shortly. Typical improvements that we're looking at is we're looking at access ramps, high visibility crosswalks. We're looking for warranted stop signs. And we're also looking at traffic signal installation, modifications. We've modified several traffic signals to enhance safety. Right there at the junior high, we modified that signal from a protected permissive to a protected only so that we didn't have conflicts with pedestrians as they were walking through the crosswalks. And we're also looking for installation and modification of the bike facilities to try to enhance safety, enlarge the bike lanes if possible. Number 2. Also, engineering values our community input, and we're looking for input from anyone, any source, and we're spending a lot of time working with our educational institutions. We're also who speak regularly to our corporate partners, as well as the public. Their concerns and ideas are evaluated, and many times they lead to safety improvements. One of engineering's best assets is our relationship with the police department. Like I told you earlier, we asked how did the fence work there at the junior high, and they said it works outstanding. They haven't seen children running across, jumping the fence, or walking through the meeting. They're actually using the traffic signal with the pedestrian improvements. But they did say we could also use it on Christopherson. So item 5D tonight, you're going to see a list of SB1 projects, and one of those projects is a safety project to install the 4-foot wrought iron fence in Christopherson from Panorama to Walnut. So again, we're going to try to take another step to enhance safety at the junior high. Last one. And in the coming years, we should be able to make many more safety improvements on a quicker and more productive pace, because we have a lot more funding coming in now than we ever had in the past. We're looking at Measure L funding, and we have SB1 funding that we're now we're reaching out or putting together project lists for. We have several active transportation plans. I've been talking to you about how we've been given the funds. It just takes time to get here. Over the next couple of years, these funds are actually going to show up at the city's hands. So we're going to start making several improvements. One of them is along Linwood, along Cunningham School. We're going to be adding sidewalk, a pedestrian beacon. We're also moving up. We just got some additional funding from StanCog on another ATP project that we're going to be installing crosswalks, sidewalks, and handicap ramps and so forth in and around the Wakefield and the Cunningham School areas. So we continue to try to improve those areas, as, provide safe routes to school. Another source of funding, we've been given a grant from the federal government on highway safety improvement grants. This is the traffic signal that we've had some discussion about at Wayside and Olive, and those funds are going to be arriving this next year. So we're going to start moving forward with that project and getting that one out. So many of our grants also include a non-infrastructure component for education encouragement and enforcement. So when we take those dollars, they come in, we'll be working with the police department, trying to identify best ways to expend these funds. And we'll also be reaching out to the school district, and they might be another partner as far as how to expend these funds. So we get the best information to the best, to the children, to the pedestrians, to the bicyclists, and to the vehicle drivers. The drivers have to take some personal responsibility and slow down and pay attention. So those are really the 3 slides that I had tonight. But we're trying to do everything we can to improve our way of doing business, to make sure that we take advantage of the funding that we're going to have, take advantage of the grants that are offered, and trying to make this community much more safer.
And I've got two more slides. The next one is partnerships. This is the important portion. This is where the stakeholders come in. And as you can see from, we have the Unified School District. We talked about CSUS. We have the City of Turlock. We have our police department. But we also have Turlock Gospel Mission, United Samaritan. Those are all stakeholders that have been involved in this process in trying to educate some of those individuals in regards to how to operate a bicycle. Don't ride across the road in the middle of the intersection. Watch out how you're crossing the road. It's important, and you might sit there and think, well, they should know that. You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. So it's really focused on partnerships, daily interactions, and our quarterly meetings is something we're just setting up. We will be having quarterly meetings with engineering ourselves. The school district is on board. We have Mike Trainer, superintendent, who's on board. We'll be at those quarterly meetings. So will CSUS Police Department. We'll be at those meetings, and we've invited our other stakeholders, United Samaritans, We Care, and the Gospel Mission to be at those meetings. And the purpose of those meetings is to discuss concerns that have come up or some educational opportunities or brainstorming, whatever we can do to continue this action of education, partnership, and enforcement. It's not something that should start in a month and end in a month. This is something that needs to go on and on and on. Funding sources is a given. We currently have OTS funding sources that have come in for our DUI grants and also traffic safety grants, which pays overtime. Unfortunately, the funding sources are not available to provide for staffing. And in concluding, our traffic safety requires attention from everyone, folks. And please, in this meeting, if you're watching, you've got to get the word out. You've got to set the example. You can't be sitting in the car with your child texting at a stop sign and then tell your 16-year-old don't text and drive. We've got to set the example. We all have to do it. We're all stakeholders in this. If we don't pay attention, then who will? The police department can't be here 24/7 to enforce these laws and force you to comply by writing you a ticket. We would much rather you comply on your own. So it's a stakeholder thing. Sustained enforcement and accountability comes to the stakeholders. This sustained enforcement that you've seen, that we've just provided you, what we're doing at school sites, what we're doing throughout the city, is going to continue. We're not stopping. We've done the education. We'll continue to put out education information, but we're done with it. We've told you, we've told our community, and the choices are being made to run the stop sign. The choices are being made because I need to get to this meeting in 3 minutes, that I'm going to drop my kid off while the car is still rolling at 3 miles an hour. Those are choices people are making, and they're not going to be acceptable. We have our current grants in regards to DUIs. You'll see them ongoing, and the partnerships are important. We will continue with the partnerships. But I just want to make it clear that the partnerships we've expanded upon tonight in regards to engineer, police, our school systems is ongoing, constant, and will not end. It's been successful, and we're going to continue to monitor the education, evaluate, and we're going to have sustained enforcement. So I appreciate your time, Council. If you have any questions,
Perfect. Any questions or comments for Chief or Director Pitcock? Yeah, Councilmember Scare.
Comment for Chief and a couple of questions for Mike. First of all, on the innovation that it was kind of funny because I think it was Seattle. One of the things they're doing to help with their people that are driving along on their phones, they're putting a police officer on a city bus. And while he's driving around, he's looked down into the vehicles. And he's got his information. Blue Chevy going southbound, such and such, holding phone, left hand, that type of thing. And so, maybe it's something we want to look into, because as I was seeing that story, it was kind of funny, but it was kind of interesting because it was working for them.
Yes.
It's getting people to stop and think that they see a car, they see a motorcycle, they're going to slow down, and then as soon as they don't see it, they're going to take off again. But if somebody's going to come along in a city bus, they're not expecting that. Maybe they'll start getting in their mind, hey, you don't know where they are. Maybe we better slow down. Maybe we better put the phones away. Just a thought.
No, and it's a good thought, and I'll tell you a funny story. I was in my unmarked unit in front of Dust Bowl at Main and Broadway there. Mustang in front of me, lights him up, just going sideways. I pull him over, and I said, and I'm in uniform, but I'm in my unmarked, and I said, it goes along with the bus. You know why I stopped you? Well, yeah, but you weren't in a police car. So it's choices people make.
Yep.
He did get a ticket. He wasn't too happy.
And then Mike, for you, just a couple questions. Is there a time frame on the sidewalks for like Cunningham and Wakefield?
The grants, we just were awarded additional dollars, and we had to move everything up 1 year. I believe it's 18-19 is when we're going to have the funding for put the sidewalks and curb ramps and so forth.
Thank you.
Any additional questions or comments? Nope. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it. All right, moving on to public participation. This time set aside for the public to address the council on any item that they would like. They'll be, their comments are going to be limited to 5 minutes each. And I have some blue cards here. Mr. Frank Johnson. Be back.
God, you guys are tall. Frank Johnson, Modesto, 608 13th Street, president of the NAAAP. I've been involved with Turlock for many, many, many years. And I've been before this diocese on many occasions. And out of all these times, this is the second time that I've come before you really upset. Back during February 4th, 2013, I went before the Turlock Chamber of Commerce on a very negative issue that I did not bring to the city. It was a racial issue. They invited a speaker, and that person made some racial remarks. Instead of blaming and going after the Chamber of Commerce, you can't hold a whole entire organization or a government agency responsible for the actions of one individual. Instead, we use the negative to create a positive. Thus was born a relationship between the NAACP and the Chamber of Commerce of Turlock. It opened doors. It created a line of communication. So in other words, over the years, Turlock has been a model city for Stanislaus County in every way, shape, and form. But recently, you've gone back 15 to 20 years under this leadership. Accountability, not working with the council, unilateral decisions. Tonight you brought up bullying. Do you know how many employees want to file a complaint but are scared? You know how serious this is? I have filed Freedom of Information Acts, and what do I get back? We need more information. Positions that come open, violations of the Brown Act, financial spending, retaliation. This city has been brought down in pieces like a pie. And then when you look at the pie, it has initials on it and who it belongs to. There's no such thing as a dictatorship here. Never was. And I'm holding every one of you accountable because you know what I'm talking about, but you're doing nothing about it. Every one of you. It has to stop. There's been a question about the mayor. Ask him to resign. I said, no. That's the worst possible thing you can do. You tell him what's going on and give him an opportunity to do the right thing. I watched you meet with one party and you came to a bigger party and blasted them to the point where I had to step in to bring it to an end. You want to align yourself with someone that a judge says that group broke the law. If you want to align yourself that is making unilateral decisions, then deal with what happens. You don't want to comply to the California State Freedom of Information Act? Deal with it. This thing with your employees has got to stop. This thing with the public and the people and the bullying and the misrepresentation of the position that these people put you in has to stop. So take me very serious. We have the documentation. However, you have an opportunity to do what's right. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Mr. Johnson. As stated, I'm happy to meet with you anytime to hear some of these issues that you brought up, and we can hopefully meet soon. Thank you. Moving on, Mr. Brad Bates.
Greetings. Happy fall. The front page headline and the front page above the fold story in the Modesto Bee this morning was the fact that Modesto, our friends to the north, are going on 6 months without a city manager. And from reading the article and the comments from their council members in that article, it's pretty clear that they do not have any clear plan for making a selection. So that kind of got me thinking. I know the city of Turlock has gone through an extensive process for selecting a city manager. I'm sure Mr. Taloni is looking forward to fighting fires and getting back to wearing the cool uniform. But my question is, where are you in the process of selecting the city manager? Where are you in the, it's a question about where are you in the process of selecting a city manager?
The process is confidential, but I appreciate your question.
Okay. Could you possibly schedule it as an agenda item as an update?
Again, the process is confidential, but we'll agendize it when we have something to report.
Okay. Okay, well, gosh, I got 3 minutes left, and I hate to waste time. Could I ask what the status is of the city attorney?
Mr. Bates, you know we can't comment on your questions from public participation, but you can go ahead and ask them and make your statements.
Okay. I see we have representation. Are we paying for 2 city attorneys? Okay. Those are my questions. Thanks for your consideration.
Thank you so much. Ms. Truewaller.
I'm going to speak
Oh, absolutely. It says 8F. I'm sorry about that. Anybody else from the public like to address the council on any item not listed on the agenda? Okay. All right. Moving on. Moving on to consent calendar. There's been a request for 5H to be removed for separate consideration, and then I had a question of 5D.
Also.
What's that?
N also.
N as well? Okay, perfect. Any other items? Oh, I'm sorry. I did skip item 4. Let's move on to motion waiving reading of all ordinances on the agenda except by title. We have a motion by Vice Mayor Dehart, seconded by Councilmember Jacob. Clerk, please call the roll.
Waiving reading of all ordinances on the agenda except by title. Councilmember Esquer.
Yes.
Councilmember Dehart.
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak.
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob.
Yes.
Mayor Soisek.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Moving on to declarative conflicts of interest and disqualifications. Looking left and right, seeing none. Disclosure of top 10 maximum contributors can be found within the agenda. Moving on to item 5, consent calendar. 5H and N are being removed for separate consideration, I believe. And then I just had a question. Well, actually, 5D is as well because I had a question on that. Any other items? All right. Do we have a motion?
Advance consent.
Do I have a second? Minus those 3. Yes. All right. We have a motion by Vice Mayor Dehart, seconded by Councilmember Scare, to pass the consent calendar. Items, less items D, H, and N. Clerk, please call the roll.
Adopting the amended consent calendar. Councilmember Esquer.
Yes.
Councilmember Dehart.
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak.
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob.
Yes.
Mayor Soisek.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. And then we're going to start off with D really quick. I just had a quick question, Director Pitcock. Are we under a timeline to submit this list, or would it be, are we able to bring this back on October 10th for a little bit more discussion?
We can have more discussion on the 10th. It's due to the state CTC on the 16th.
Okay, perfect. So,
So
the
we
10th
have,
would
we have a little bit more time if you'd like to.
Perfect. Yeah, and I'm not against putting it back on consent calendar. I think that we should have a little bit more conversation.
Yeah, and the other thing is, while we're putting together this list and we're giving it to the state within the timeline they want, it does not require you to stick with this verbatim. You can actually make modifications to it, and you just have to note that with your report at the end of the year.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much. So we're going to remove item 5D for tonight. Yes, Councilman Scare. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I had also called Mike on 5D because I did have a couple questions on the list that we had. Was trying to figure out how we adopted that particular list, and I wanted to make sure he did explain to me a little bit. But could you explain so everybody knows how those projects were selected and how they affect the Measure L funds?
Yeah, these are projects that are on the Measure L list. They are projects that are not to receive assessment district funds. So they're non-assessment district areas. So the idea behind it was put together a quick project. It didn't need a lot of money because we only getting a partial amount of SB1 dollars the first year. So it was like the idea to pull them up, get them done, and then when we get to the end of the useful life, if we want to redo it with the Measure L dollars, we can, or we can just skip them because they've got their treatment and we can move on. So it's going to be a choice at the end, at that point in time. Okay.
Thanks so much, Mike. Appreciate it. All right, moving on to item. Which one are you, Cook? H. All right, we'll do H. Sorry.
Good evening,
Off
Mayor.
track.
Members of Council. 5H is a renewal of our agreement with Itron, who provides the equipment and software for our fixed network automatic meter reading system. We have about 44 pieces of hardware out in the community that collect signals from our meters and transmit that data to a central warehouse in Liberty Lake, Washington, where it's turned into real data and transmitted back to us. So they host the servers and all that stuff there. So this pays for the hardware in the community that reads the signal, the software maintenance back at Liberty Lake that compile that information for our billing system, customer service system. And then on top of that, we budget about $100,000 a year to purchase components from Itron. So that's the what are called the endpoints, which read the meter, the antenna, cell control units, and repeaters. So we don't typically spend that much money, but that's money we budgeted. So our maintenance agreement is $10,000 for the reading equipment and $30,000 for the web-based hosting. So we always spend about $45,000 a year with Itron for those things, and the remaining 140 is money we set aside in case we need to replace equipment related with that system. So I'll be happy to answer your questions on that.
Question and comments, Vice Mayor Dehart.
Thanks, Michael. Yeah, I asked this be pulled. I think anytime we're dealing with an amount of money in excess of $100,000, it definitely needs to be on scheduled matters or public hearings. I think that I'm all in favor of updating, maintaining, keeping our technology right where it belongs, but I think that, for future, we may want to make sure that we put it open for discussion so we remain completely transparent.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Is there any
Mike, I
public
just had a
comment?
quick question.
Yes.
Mike, are these meters really accurate? 'Cause I'm pretty sure I'm getting overcharged.
They're very, very accurate, and if they go wrong, they actually go slower, so they read in your favor, not our favor.
Solid. All right. Any questions from the public on this? All right. What's the pleasure of the council?
I'll advance, Mayor.
Do I have a second? All right. We have a motion by Vice Mayor DeHart, seconded by Councilmember Jacob. Clerk, please call the roll.
Approving a master sales agreement with Itron Inc. for water fixed network automatic meter reading, AMR, maintenance and software support, and the purchase of components for a period of 12 months in an annual amount of $180,000 without compliance to the formal bid procedure pursuant to Turlock Municipal Code Section 2708B2. Councilmember Esquer,
Yes.
Councilmember DeHart,
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Mayor Soyset.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. And moving on to item N, Chief Carlson.
Yes, Mayor and Council. This is a request that came out of a few council meetings ago to look at getting the fire prevention and the fire marshal's office some assistance to help keep up with increased demand to provide faster service to the customer. We sat down, myself, the fire marshal, and Councilmember Bublak, to look over some ideas, and what we're doing is requesting to appropriate $25,000 we found that are to be funded by increased revenue as a result of the increased development in our fire prevention fees, and reappropriate that to an expense account so we can establish a fire marshal apprentice, so to speak. This person would come out of our ranks and assist the fire marshal with prevention activities. Not only would this speed up the process for the fire marshal and provide better, faster customer service, it would also fill a need for us in the role of succession planning. As I've spoke to, we have really nobody in the department with that knowledge base, and this would begin that process. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions? Yes, Councilmember Bublak.
I asked it to be taken off so that we could discuss it for two reasons. One, I think it's important to note that the fire department had a problem and they found the solution just within themselves, which is really important that we see this. As well, I think it's important that people listening who are on a waiting list to get the fire marshal over there know that things are going to start to turn around quicker. As well, anybody who's interested in starting to do some modifications of their business or come here and do a business, understand that we take this serious and that we wanted to make sure that we weren't making them wait too long. So I really appreciate you and your staff's effort, and that was my only reason for doing it.
Thank you, Councilor.
Any other questions or comments? All right. Anyone from the audience?
03030035100 fire fees prevention for overtime costs associated with staffing an apprentice to the fire marshal in the City of Turlock Fire Department Fire Prevention Division. Councilmember Esquer,
Yes.
Councilmember DeHart,
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Mayor Soyset.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Moving on to file readings, we have none. Public hearings. Request to approve the fiscal year 2016-17 draft consolidated annual performance and evaluation report.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. As you might remember, this is an annual report that captures the accomplishments and the expenditures of the HUD funds that are allocated by entitlement to the City of Turlock and in its lead agency role with the Stanislaus County Home Consortium. This CAPER is basically the reporting tool that goes with the annual action plan that's previously been approved by the City Council. And we're asking for your approval for us to submit these documents to HUD and authorization for the mayor or city manager to sign the required documents. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments? Any questions or comments from the audience on this item? Right. Bring it back to the council for consideration. All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Jacob, second by Councilmember Bublak. Clerk, please call the roll.
Approving the fiscal year 2016-2017 draft consolidated annual performance and evaluation report CAPER for the Community Development Block Grant Program CDBG and Home Investment Partnership Program HOME, authorizing submission of the CAPER to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development HUD, and authorizing the mayor, city manager, or designee to execute related necessary documents. Councilmember Esquer?
Yes.
Councilmember Dehart?
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak?
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob?
Yes.
Mayor Soisek?
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Thank you. All right, moving on to item B, requested to determine amendments to the TMC Title 6, Chapter 4, and Title 6, Chapter 5 regarding sewer and water connections are exempt from CEQA, and approving amendments to the related sections. Director Pitcock.
Thanks, sir. The item before you is an amendment to the Turlock Municipal Code, as you stated. Right now, the water and sewer, I guess the way the code reads for water and sewer, whether it's inside or outside the city limits, it all has different language. So what we're doing is to clean up, we're making all the language together so that it's all consistent. The reason we brought this forward is the current language states that if you are getting a sewer service and you're outside the city limits, you have to do your full frontage improvements. But if you get a sewer service and you're in the city limits, you do not. So what you're doing with this action is making it all consistent, that a utility stub alone will not require frontage improvements with inside or not inside the city limits. So we're just trying to bring some consistency so that you're not penalized for being outside the city limits yet when the sewer is available to you. This was brought to our attention from a citizen that's in a county island that's actually looking for a sewer service, and so you'll see a outside service agreement before you on the 10th of October. It'll be a scheduled item. It'll be right after the second reading of this if you approve it tonight.
All right, any questions or comments for Director Pitcock? All right, any questions or comments from the audience on this item? Okay, bringing it back, we do have two items. We have a resolution and an ordinance. What is the pleasure of the council on this?
Advance the resolution.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Jacob, seconded by Councilmember Bublak for the resolution. Clerk, please call the roll.
Determining amendments to Turlock Municipal Code Title 6, Chapter 4, adding a definition of lot or parcel, clarifying when the city may furnish sewer service, clarifying ownership of sewer lines, clarifying responsibilities for maintenance of sewer lines, modifying requirements for connecting to sewer service inside and outside the city limit, and modifying requirements for extending sewer mains outside the city limit, and amendments to Turlock Municipal Code Title 6, Chapter 5, modifying definition of water main, modifying requirements for connecting to the city's water system inside and outside the city limit, clarifying when the city may furnish water, clarifying requirements for installation of water meters, clarifying ownership of water lines, clarifying maintenance of water lines, and modifying requirements for extending water mains outside the city limits are exempt from the provisions of the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, pursuant to Section 15061B3, General Rule of the CEQA Guidelines. Councilmember Esquer?
Yes.
Councilmember Dehart?
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak?
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob?
Yes.
Mayor Soisek?
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Moving on to the ordinance. What's the pleasure of the council?
Advance ordinance.
All right, we have a motion by Vice Mayor Dehart, seconded by Councilmember Esquer. Clerk, please call the roll.
Introducing an ordinance amending Turlock Municipal Code, Title 6, Chapter 4, adding a definition of lot or parcel, clarifying when the city may furnish sewer service, clarifying ownership of sewer lines, clarifying responsibilities for maintenance of sewer lines, modifying requirements for connecting to sewer service inside and outside the city limit, and modifying requirements for extending sewer mains outside the city limit, and amending Turlock Municipal Code Title 6, Chapter 5, modifying definition of water main, modifying requirements for connecting to the city's water system inside and outside the city limit, clarifying when the city may furnish water, clarifying requirements for installation of water meters, clarifying ownership of water lines, clarifying maintenance of water lines, and modifying requirements for extending water mains outside the city limit, and setting the final reading for October 10th, 2017. Councilmember Esquer?
Yes.
Councilmember Dehart?
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak?
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob?
Yes.
Mayor Soisek?
Yes, ordinance passes 5-0. Thank you so much. Moving on to scheduled matters, request to determine the closure for Sacred Heart Catholic Church to host the Feast of Our Lady of Fatima celebration procession is exempt from the provisions of the California Environmental Quality Act and approve the special event permit application. Amber, you're
Good evening,
how are
Mayor
you?
and Council. Great, thank you. On July 7th, 2017, Edwina Rocha of Sacred Heart Catholic Church submitted a special event application which included a street closure request to host the Our Lady of Fatima celebration procession. The specific closure in front of you this evening is to accommodate the final procession in a three procession series. At the September 12th meeting, the event application and first two closure requests were approved. The street closure before you this evening is to close Oak Street between Cooper Avenue and Lyons Avenue between North Rose Street and Oak Street on Sunday, October 1st from 7:15 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Staff has given the event coordinator direction that emergency access into the closure must be maintained. City of Turlock Traffic Engineering has reviewed the application. City of Turlock Special Event Committee has reviewed the application, and property owners directly affected by this closure have been notified of this evening's public hearing. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions or comments for Amber? Yes, Vice Mayor.
So I can't remember if it was called Part 2 or Parade 2 or whatever it was, but did we not already approve the longer route for the Sunday morning?
We did, in fact. That was approved at the September 12th.
And now we're considering the evening longer route?
This is a smaller condensed route that is just contains Oak Street and Lyons Avenue.
Thank
So
you.
it's essentially just from Cooper down Oak onto Lyons.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments from the council? How about from the audience? Anybody from the audience? All right, looking alive, I like this. All right, bringing it back. Amber, what's the pleasure of the council on this one? Take this resolution separate. There it is. Second. There we go. All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Scare, seconded by Councilmember Bublak. Clerk, please call the roll.
Determining the closure of Oak Street between Cooper Avenue and Lyons Avenue between North Rose Street and Oak Street for Sacred Heart Catholic Church to host the Feast of Our Lady of Fatima celebration procession is exempt from the provisions of the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, in accordance with Section 15304, minor alterations to land of the CEQA guidelines. Councilmember Esquer,
Yes.
Councilmember DeHart,
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Mayor Soisette.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. And what is the pleasure of the council on the second resolution? There it is. All right, motion by Councilmember Scare, seconded by Councilmember Bublak. Clerk, please call the roll.
Approving the special event permit application for the Feast of Our Lady of Fatima celebration procession hosted by Sacred Heart Catholic Church, authorizing the associated closure of Oak Street between Cooper Avenue and Lyons Avenue between North Rose Street and Oak Street for pedestrian safety on Sunday, October 1st, 2017, from 7:15 p.m. through 8:30 p.m., and authorizing the city manager to apply appropriate conditions and restrictions on the street closure. Councilmember Esquer,
Yes.
Councilmember DeHart,
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Mayor Soisette.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Thank you so much,
Thank
Amber.
you very
Yes,
much.
Vice Mayor.
Yes, thanks, Mayor. I'd just like to, now that we've done it, I'd like for us to, on next year and subsequent events, give some serious consideration to this particular event once a year that I would consider to be a major intrusion on the neighborhood. As we consider the Portuguese festival nowhere near the intrusion on the neighborhood. Commercial districts, Main Street, yes, but nothing like what we've approved just now. I believe that there may have been either a miscommunication, a misstatement, a misinterpretation, whatever we want to call it. But I would like to just express the position that when we close an entire street off for the sole benefit of a religious institution, there are a couple of assumptions that I think rightfully need to be made. Number one, that now that we have a compound, let's start playing like Joshua and the Battle of Jericho. There are multiple opportunities to march around the church grounds in procession to commemorate a special event. I am all for cultural, religious events. However, we're not just talking about one block. We're not even talking about 2 blocks. We're talking about 3 blocks. And not just on one street, but 3 streets. And it just seems to me that we've got to somehow get, if not a better plan moving forward, at least a bit more reach out on the part of the church to the neighbors to see if there isn't some mitigating opportunities here to the damage that's being done, and I believe it's damage. There is no ingress, no egress from many of those homes due to the configuration of the alley system. And I think we really need to keep this in mind. It's not a function of whether or not fire can get through or police can get through. It's that the residents can't get in and cannot get out. And I think we're treading on thin ice going forward, so I just wanted to offer that.
All right, thank you so much, Vice Mayor. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much,
Chamber.
Council.
All right, moving on to item B, request to authorize the rental of the Chamber of Commerce facility. 8B has a green sheet that's been submitted. Director Van Gilder, please come on up.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This item is a partnership that the Turlock Downtown property owners and the Chamber of Commerce have created to hopefully identify an opportunity to relocate the Turlock Downtown property owner office to the Chamber building. What you have in the council item before you is essentially an outline of why we're bringing this action before you. As you know, the city has a current agreement with the Chamber Foundation, and item 17 of that agreement requires that any subletting or renting of the facility by the Chamber has to have approval by this body. And so essentially that's what we are doing tonight. In addition to the staff report, you have a copy of the agreement between the Chamber and the Turlock Downtown property owners. We've also included a copy of the agreement between the city and the Chamber Foundation. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have. I know that there are representatives from both of those organizations here with us tonight if you have any questions of them.
Any questions or comments for Director Van Gilder from the council this time? Or do we want to open it up? Anyone from the Chamber of Commerce like to address the council? Or anyone from the audience, we can open it up. Come on up.
Thank you, everyone. To be brief, it's been a long night. We just thank you for your consideration. We're anticipating that the resolution will be accepted and adopted, and we appreciate your support.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Anyone else from the, yes, anyone else from the public? Please come forward. Yeah.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, City Council members. For the record, David Franson. I wanted to address you about something I've emailed, spoke to you about, almost all of you for a while now, probably going back since 2005, not all of you, but then 2009. With the Chamber of Commerce, where they're located at in that building in Central Park, this has been a hang-up for a few different decisions that the City Council has decided on. Back in 2005, they were trying to solve homelessness in Central Park, and through that, we're going to give away Central Park as its entirety to the Chamber. Then it ended up the building. I believe that didn't follow through totally with giving it away, which is why you see in the council presentation that it's to be given back to the city if the agreement is terminated. So even though it's been deeded to them, it's still the city of Turlock's at the end of like whatever. But they have a 55-year deal. So with that though, the hang-up started coming when the Turlock Chamber of Commerce started getting into endorsements of candidates, including local candidates, so your positions. And obviously that's very closely connected, any kind of group endorsement of the city council that's getting funds from it. Well, the Turlock Chamber was also contracted to provide the Convention and Visitor Bureau services, like marketing, tourism for the city of Turlock. So there were questions of like commingling of funds, because it was like, I mean, I know some of you were candidates and you held your interviews in the building, and it is subsidized by the city for $1 a year. That's what's in the agreement in your agenda packets. And there was a contract with the chamber. So at that time, there were some questions, and they ended up forming a political action committee. But that committee still operated in that building. As we all know, there were endorsement interviews there and campaign meetings, whatever. So there was questions about that and that city building. Then we fast forward to probably starting about 2010, the question of CVB services with the stats, data, and results. And that came to a head in 2013. I believe it was Councilwoman Amy Bublak had asked for stats, data, results. They didn't have it. The CVB contract was passed right before this, actually council, not Gil Esquerra though. But then started the process of review of the results, and especially with Mayor Soyseth, started the push for having an open bid for it. And in that was supposed to be advocating for transparency and accountability of government and taxpayer spending. Well, then after that, the Chamber of Commerce actually terminated the agreement before it was going to be discussed, and I believe the council was hoping they would come back and propose a bid, but we still haven't seen the replacement of that services. But what happened with that is when they terminated the CVB services that they were providing, there was no direct tie to the city of Turlock for government benefit coming out of that building that they're still getting for $1 a year. And the way it was always presented, even if you go back and look in their CVB services, staff presentations, the chamber agreement was always included in that. Like that was part of the deal. Why would we give any organization, any citizen of Turlock a free building, essentially? And like, why would they get it over any other nonprofits that might be out there providing, very helpful services to the community members? So like that was open-ended though, because what happened with that open bid process is that we didn't get a replacement for CVB services, which was specifically said that we were going to, and we still haven't. It's been, 2.5 years? So that building is also still being considered because it was providing Visitors Bureau out of that building. So we had information for visitors and such. So what is the partnership with the Chamber of Commerce right now that they would get that building and for $1 a year? And I was disappointed because I don't see the city attorney. She has known all about this. I've emailed her where the chamber had maps that were subsidized by the city, but then they were charging ads on it, and that didn't come back to the city. And I've also sent her the issues about political action being done in the building, but yet it also being a government subsidized building, but even a government building, period. So I think going forward with this agreement, I didn't even see this. It was on the last, council under consent calendar, and then I just happened to see it because it was on scheduled matters. But if there's going to be an agreement, I think it's going to even compound the issues further than we have right now. Like, is it even legal for one entity to be getting this for no specific reason? Is it legal to be tied to a political action committee that essentially taxpayers are subsidizing that building that they're using for something, plus the city I'm sorry, there was an information in this your presentation. I just wanted you guys to be informed, but the city staff presentation does not have even that this organization has a deal or had made a deal with the city after being audited and had misuse, inappropriate, or unallowable spending from the city and did not provide results or even receipts for some expenditures. And so I think that should be included, that this organization you're going forward with, like it's nothing, has not been resolved from that audit and the deal that they had. And then if they're getting it for $1 a year, they're going to be allowed to rent out a taxpayer's building and make money off of it while they owe the city of Turlock And then also another issue with the city attorney, I really wish that the chamber issue would be investigated, and along with the city attorney, because she knew about all of this, and I continually have just gotten emails saying, like, I'm not the community's attorney. I work for city council. And it has never been brought forward to address it legally, like what's the legal status? And there's also an outstanding loan, which I have spoke with you specifically about, Mayor Soyseth, and you seemed like you were going to try to collect it, sort of, from what you knew. I don't know if you know something different, but I have not seen a public repayment of a loan which isn't a resolution. And the only place that I can find after going through hoops and saying that the city did not make a loan, it was not a loan, it was like an interdepartmental transfer, was I had to go through and I had to request public information for the cash check. And it was sent to the Chamber of Commerce building and deposited in a sub-account of the Turlock Chamber of Commerce. And I have not seen a repayment from that. The people that took the money, I guess, would be the people that repay it. So I just would request that you hold off on compounding another organization like the Turlock Downtown Properties Association, which I don't see any issues with. But even in the past, I believe Councilwoman Bublak also voted against the TTPO P-bid decision, which she even specified, and this is all on the internet, documented, but she specified that she had no problem with the P-bid, but she couldn't vote for it because it was essentially commingling with the Turlock Chamber of Commerce, which was not resolved, and that was even back then. So I just really think that building should totally be reviewed. I think the issues, some legalities should be reviewed and investigated with the city attorney, and why she did not have the city's back legally and protect taxpayer resources and funds.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Any additional comments or questions from the audience on this item? All right. I don't know if there's any comments or questions from the council or council members that have been, Councilmember Bublak. Yeah.
If I might, I had asked for it to be pulled last time it was on. It was consent, and I merely was asking so that we could ask the question in public, make it transparent, because there's been some controversy. Is it, to whomever their attorney is it lawful to use a taxpayer's money and make money off of it? I just wanted it clear, question asked, and then for whatever reason, it was postponed, the entire thing, and then all this other information comes forward, and so I guess as I tick away at some of DJ's remarks, I do have some questions, legal questions, that I would want Sky or somebody to answer for us, so that at least we can say in good faith that we did the right thing. I would have, if I'd heard yes at the consent item last time, I was ready to just go forward. I just wanted everybody to hear about it. But now I'm concerned that maybe there are some questions that need to be legally addressed by you or with a little research. I'm not sure. But if you could just share that with us, if this is lawful.
My understanding is that the city attorney had reviewed the proposal to authorize the chamber to rent out portions of the building pursuant to the lease. My office has independently looked at it, and we reached the same conclusion, which is that the single issue that's on the agenda tonight, which is authorizing the chamber pursuant to the terms of the lease to rent out portions of the building, is allowable, that is a lawful action. A number of other issues have been raised. If the council would like those to be investigated before moving forward with the item that's on the agenda tonight, we can certainly do that. But while they are questions that that the council may believe may merit investigation, I don't think they necessarily preclude the council from moving forward tonight with this, because it's a very narrow issue that's on the agenda, and to the extent that these questions relate to use of funds and auditing, maintenance of accounts and issues like that, those are not necessarily a bar to the action that's on the agenda.
Yes, Vice Mayor.
I would just like to respond to the question of why it was pulled and delayed from consideration last time. Perhaps there was no benefit explained, and I apologize for that. But when we're considering an item like this particular one, where we cite provisions within a contract authorizing the chamber by contract to affect a sublet or whatever, without the benefit of having the contract there with the actual item was the basis of my request for delay. When you have the whole story or the full story, it seems to help. It does me anyway. Maybe I'm deficient. But I think the reality is that when you have the full story there, and I guess perhaps attorney could help us out understand this one. Are we talking about a contract that is, for whatever reason, in jeopardy simply because of the fact that we're no longer dealing with a CVB involvement? Is it a standalone Chamber of Commerce contract? My understanding, my assessment, everything I've been told has been that yes, it is. And unless there's something different, I don't know what else to think. And that was a question, sir.
Just thank you for clarifying. My understanding, and granted, I'm coming late to the process, but my understanding, reviewing the terms of the lease, is that it is a lease agreement between the city and the Turlock Chamber Foundation, a singular organization. At the time that lease was approved, given that it is for $1 a year, my assumption, without having investigated it, would be that there was a determination made that there would be substantial public benefit from the lease to justify doing it on those terms. Having approved a lease agreement that includes a provision that contemplates allowing the organization to make portions of the building available to others for purposes that are not limited, but subject to city council approval, that is a fairly standard provision. And I without having been fully briefed on all of the council's intention, or all of the chamber's intentions, they are, as I understand it, though, they are operating, maintaining this building, incurring costs related to it, and so charging for the use of the building that they are paying for the maintenance and operation of would not be unreasonable, and it is contemplated in the lease that was approved. That lease was approved with a fine. I'm making an assumption, but it is a very, very common thing to find public benefit in approving a lease like this, so I assume that was done at the time.
Any additional comments or questions of the council? Yeah, briefly, yeah.
In regards to, is this related to funds? It's not. It's actually related to the building. So if you're going to involve another organization in some of these questions, that yes, it's not talking about should they be able to have this agreement under this, but is the actual current agreement even? I mean, that should be in question from, I think, some of the legalities. And then also, like in the staff presentation, even in the actual agreement, it says something about that the building should not exceed more than 8% of the park. In Exhibit A, and it says see Exhibit A, and it's like 1/3 of the park. That's what I'm saying, is what is the history behind the building before you start allowing someone else to get in? These things have not been clarified. I just think it would not be prudent, or TDPOA onto it, and then you have to go revisit it, and then everyone's in the mix. I mean, it just doesn't seem prudent.
Thank you. No, I appreciate it. I have a few comments, but Councilmember Scared.
After reading a lot of this, I'm a little bit on the confused side again. I apologize because late to the party, and so again for the legal counsel, any of the current concerns that have been raised, do you see any merit in waiting? Is there a timeline? Can we look at this a little bit further till we all understand exactly what it is we're talking about, what we're doing, and make sure it's being done correctly?
Let me start with the timeline. Without really having had myself time to even assess the full scope of the questions that have been asked, it would be hard for me to estimate how long it would take for my office or other attorneys to review them, so I don't want to set unreasonable expectations. I don't believe that there are issues that would take a long amount of time, but there's obviously some history here that would need to be reviewed, and documents would have to be compiled, so it's going to take a little while.
Actually, the timeline I was referring to, the chamber, is there a timeline where it needs to be address tonight, or can we hold it a little bit longer? And, I mean, that was the time my
Yeah,
question
okay.
was.
My apologies, misunderstood.
And I'll let the chamber speak to that in a second, but I just think also when you take a step back that we're looking at a very narrow point of this contract. And back when I first came on in 2014, and we did review the CVB contract with the Chamber of Commerce, and we did do an audit. We did appoint myself, once those findings came back, as mayor to meet with representatives from the Chamber of Commerce to look at all aspects of the chamber. And that's when we came back to the council with an agreement for a repayment of $200,000 and some odd over the course of X amount of years, to be paid, 18 months later. And that didn't just fall into place. It took a long time of discussions. And that was so that the goal of that was so that the city of Turlock and the Chamber of Commerce could continue to try and partner in serving the city and community of Turlock as much as possible. The building itself was brought up, but it was taken off the table because of the complexities. It wasn't as simple as us putting money in to build it. There was a lot of other donations into that. They do pay the utilities, and there's other things incorporated with that, but that was not part of the agreement that was brought back to the council that we all voted on. I believe even Councilmember Bublak voted to go forward on that resolution. And so while I'm happy to explore this with further documentation that can be brought forward, I think that this is a narrow aspect of the lease that would allow the Chamber of Commerce to use space to partner with another great organization, Turlock Downtown Property Association, to further their commitment to the community of Turlock. And that's what we should address here tonight. I don't want to speak for you, but I would assume you guys have talked to Turlock Downtown Property Association. We'd like to get them in as soon as possible. And so I think that that'd be the timeline. I'm just assuming. So if you'd like to speak to that.
Simply put, in answer to the timing question, yes, this has been going on for a couple months, and looking at partnerships and ways that we can, since you've addressed it, really fulfill our obligation with the repayment plan, as well as expand our relationships in the community. The Chamber of Commerce is a over 300 member-based organization of local businesses, and we do great work in the community, supporting the business community, and we hope that our council will, with all of the address of the issues that we have done over the past few years, the major improvements we've made to our organization and continue to make, we'll consider this resolution allow us to continue to partner with businesses from a timing perspective. They're waiting to move in and relocate. We're looking to expand our partnership. If you choose a delay, then that would be in your hands, and we'll approach that and face that as it comes. Okay. Any other questions I can address for the group? We appreciate, again, the support.
Yes, Councilmember Bublak.
So I don't think that my question was in a narrow aspect. It was just a legal versus non-legal. That was my intent. I had no ill will towards anyone. I just want to make sure that because there's so much background, that we do this public so that everyone is able to hear and get that. Having heard what he has said, Sky, regarding you could go forward and then at any point we could retract and say, hey, you know what, we did the investigation on the back part and we got some issues. I think that that's potential, but I would say that I think that we need to change the part where we allow them to, and other organizations. I think that we need to just say right now, just this one entity, while we do some background, we're trying to be partners and help you, but we want to make sure we're not opening the door to whomever. And I think there was a reason that we had that verbiage in there, was so that we would know who was going in there and would have some semblance of if we felt we could support that, or if it was some crazy outlier that we were like, whoa, where'd that come from? So I'm okay to promote this and pass this resolution with the last three words being struck, and asking for an investigation regarding many of these items on the screen sheet.
Can you restate the three words?
And other organizations.
Was that a motion?
Yes.
I'll second that.
All right. So any additional public comment? I heard you. Any additional public? Yes, please come forward, Molly.
Hello, everybody. My name is Molly Amont, and I'm the Executive Director of the Turlock Downtown Property Owners Association. I just wanted to add, just thinking about it from our point of view and where we're standing at, there's not a lot of availability downtown, so that's great for the downtown, but I don't want to get into a situation where we're gonna go forward and the investigation comes back and then we have to come out. So that's my question. Could that be a possibility?
So I think I'm understanding your question is that with this, if there were some findings and the council didn't feel comfortable with lending out space to the Chamber of Commerce, you're saying would you then have to leave
Right.
after that? And that's to be determined. And that's also why I
Okay.
don't feel comfortable with this motion. I'll tell you why.
Okay.
It's not that I don't have comfort with the level of bringing facts forward, and I think that anyone with facts on this past stuff that happened in 2006 or beyond shouldn't come forward. They need to, but it needs to be a properly agendized item, and we can bring that forward in October 10th, and that's fine. But I also think that there's a lot of ramifications with adding an investigation. Is there a not to exceed amount of 10,000, 15, 20,000? We're talking about spending money to look into things that honestly I haven't seen a lot of facts other than a green sheet. And I'm not negating Mr. Franson's green sheet. I just think that we need to make sure we can fact and collect some things, and then we can bring something forward if there's something else. So that's part of the reason why I have a little hesitation just authorizing investigations without saying how much it's going to cost, what's going to happen if we allow tenants to move. You're going to move your premises and then go to the Chamber of Commerce building. We need to flesh that out and give you guys the full ability to look and see if you're going to move or not.
Okay, perfect.
So I'm sorry to give you a non-answer answer.
No,
but
that's
yeah,
totally
I think there's
fine.
this
Appreciate it.
ramifications to this. Yes, Mr. Scare.
And again, I just want to make sure you all understand, I have no problems with the chamber or the downtown association or renting the building. I just want to make sure that since some of these issues came up, I just want to make sure everything we're doing is legal and everything that we've been doing is legal and transparent. Because, like I say, late to the party, but I still want to know what's going on around me before I vote on it. Okay, that's my only issue.
If I may as well, I'm not quite as late to the party, but still a lot of this is a little bit confusing, and that well, I appreciate the answers that Sky you were able to provide, but I think maybe phrasing it as an investigation was that your intention? I was thinking we just kind of need some more information as we move forward with this, and so again, I would completely echo the sentiment. I have nothing against the chamber or against the town properties owners association. I think that there were some valid points that were made, and so I would just like to get some more information as we move forward. But in this narrow issue right here, I have no problem with that, and voting for that. So.
Go for it.
So investigation was the cop jargon. I apologize. It's what I use. But what I want is research based. I want us to look back and see this. Many of you, probably all of you, haven't been on council as long as me to have experienced all of these things, and I didn't remember half of this. So good job, DJ, Mr. Research. But so if we can have someone look it through, a lawyer look at it from their eyes, and give us comfort that we've done the right things, and maybe that I don't think there's any intention of doing something wrong. I just want to make sure we do the right thing. But that doesn't negate that we want to move forward and let you guys start doing your partnership and all that, and just not with a bunch of other organizations leasing as well or subletting, and do the research background to find out what's going on.
So yes, sorry, Vice Mayor.
It is getting late, and I would hardly call this a party. But I guess what I would have to say is that the elephant in the room right now is dealing with a partnership between TDPO, those guys, and the Chamber of Commerce. And I think that the reality is that I do tend to support my colleagues with respect to in attempting to understand what happened. I think when we get a green sheet, which does bring up some very interesting questions, I've still seen no evidence of anything other than allegations and comments. That's a legacy answer, not just in response to this green sheet. So I'd like to find out whether or not there is something behind the scenes or long-term that we need to be aware of, other than allegations and, oh my gosh, I'm not happy about this. So I would tend to support. Was I on a timer?
I didn't even notice that.
I'll yield my time to you.
Okay, I'll claim the rest of Councilmember Bublak's time. I think that it is a valid effort to understand what happened in the past. Or we'll never figure out, we're going to have this millstone hanging around our neck. People are going to be complaining and griping about it forever and a day. Let's find out what happened. Let's put it to bed. Let's get TDP away together with Chamber of Commerce. It's a flipping desk in a 10 by 10 room. Let's get it done. This is ridiculous. So let's understand. Let's move ahead with that action. I don't know what we need to do as far as this motion is concerned, because I think we need to defeat the motion because it was something else.
I'd like to put forward some alternate language. So passing the resolution out, and you'll have to agree, obviously, authorizing the rental of the Chamber of Commerce facility located at 115 South Golden State Boulevard by the Turlock Downtown Property Owners Association, striking and other organizations. And then also encourage all those with information and documentation on centennial celebrations to bring this to the law firm of, where are you from?
Myers-Nave.
Myers-Nave, to Myers-Nave.
Should we have a amount of time, or do you want to?
I think we should keep it open-ended, so in case other people, it stands, so we encourage people to come forward. Or do you want within 30 days, or?
Yeah, I'd prefer it.
Within 30 days.
Only because, I mean,
It's your motion.
yeah, it is, right? You're putting words in my mouth. I just think that, I mean, again, we're going to beat this up a million times. None of us here have said we don't want this partnership to occur. We're just saying that we need to clean this other stuff up and make sure that everything's done correctly and has been done correctly, so that there isn't a question anymore, so we don't have that haze over us. And so, yeah, if we say forever, then we're not stopping the problem.
All right, so within 30 days?
30 days.
We just got to move on with life. This is ridiculous.
And I don't think it'll be a problem to finish this up in 30 days and bring something to the council.
Yeah, if warranted. Yes, exactly. So that's Myers-Nave. That you can bring it to Myers-Nave can be looked up. Can you please state the contact information?
Sure.
For the audience, if it, yeah.
What I could give the member of the public a card.
Perfect. There it is. So the member of the public a card that works. Clerk, you're looking at me.
I was just going to ask you if you wouldn't mind if we have a motion in a second, just so because you so eloquently
Sorry.
spoke the first time.
We
If
already
you
had
wouldn't
the
mind
motion.
reiterating that once we have a motion in a second on it.
Oh, ventriloquist, go ahead, speak. My lips will move.
Can I? All right, should we hold hands too? Authorizing the rental of the Chamber of Commerce facility located at 115 South Golden State Boulevard by the Turlock Downtown Property Owners Association, period. And also encourage all those with information and documentation on centennial celebrations to bring this information to the law firm of Myers-Nave within 30 days.
Just one point of clarification. It's centennial and any building information.
Centennial celebrations and building
Chamber
information.
building information.
Exactly. Yeah, no, and chamber building information to the law firm Myers-Nave, who will provide cards to the public within 30 days.
My second.
Second.
And you accept the amendment to your motion?
Yes, I was saying out loud.
Yes, yes. Oh, okay. Well, yours already a second. Yes, you can now. Sorry, this is democracy is messy, guys. Sorry.
It is an experiment,
or
sir.
dictatorship, whatever.
And I guess my question would just be, is this motion in its current form acceptable to the author of the green sheet? I mean, I'd like to kind of like move life on. Is this in spirit and in keeping with what we were originally trying to do? You can respond there.
Well, let me say something.
It's more than a yes or no.
Yeah.
Actually, there are allegations on that sheet, and there are proof. It's still in City of Turlock documentation. I mentioned a resolution that states a loan. I mentioned the cash check, which I got from you.
Yep.
I mentioned the City of Turlock agreement, which, by the way, it says to not exceed more than 8% of the park, and it shows a third of the park. There are legalities and just even technicalities. You guys are just making a contract up that doesn't even have facts. Those aren't allegations.
Was the building built after the contract was signed?
I don't know. That's what I asked for the investigation, and I think using a contract that is not even factual with an exhibit that doesn't even match the wording.
Well,
the
did you get
verbiage.
that contract from us?
Yeah, It's
Okay.
in your staff
And it's the
presentation.
one that's in our, agenda packet.
Yeah, she can put it up on the
Okay,
screen or
good.
something.
So now we'll communicate
So, like,
this over to
that's what I think, by the way, is
and
not.
review for understanding. I think that's the
That's what I
important thing.
think is
So
not
thank
legal,
you
by
very
the way.
much.
You don't even have a contract that's even correct in the verbiage or the attachment to this. And then the building thing is not even a contractual thing. That's like, is there a public benefit coming out of the building that they get it for $1 a month? That's not regarding any allegations. That's a decision that you guys have to make. Do you want to hook this organization up
Sky,
to
do
make
you have
money?
the card? Yeah, perfect. Yeah, David, will you meet with Sky? Perfect. I have a motion on the floor with a second. Motion by Councilmember Bublock, seconded by Councilmember Jacob. Clerk, please don't make me read it back to you. So she's reading it back.
I'll read it back.
Yes,
If I've
please.
missed anything, please let me know.
Hold on. Chamber of Commerce, are you guys okay with this amendment? Thank you. President says proceed. Please read back.
Authorizing the rental of the Chamber of Commerce facility located at 115 South Golden State Boulevard by the Turlock Downtown Property Owners Association. Also encourage all those with information and documentation on the Centennial Celebration and the Chamber of Commerce building to bring information forward to Myers-Nave within 30 days. I got it all?
Please proceed, yes.
Okay. Councilmember Esquer?
Yes.
Councilmember Dehart?
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak?
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob?
Yes.
Mayor Soisa?
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chamber of Commerce. Thank you, Mr. Franson. Thank you, Myers-Nave. All right, moving on. Request to approve an agreement between the Turlock. Did I skip anything, Allison? Sorry.
8C?
Yeah, I did. Request to approve amendment number 4 to the revocable license agreement between the City of Turlock and Gold State Farmers Market Association for the certified farmers market located on City of Turlock property.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The item before you is an amendment to the current revocable license agreement between the City of Turlock and Golden State Farmers Market. As you know, the Central Park Evening Market has been operating this season at Central Park on Thursday evenings. We are quickly coming to a close during the month of October, and as a way to maintain the market's involvement in the downtown and to maintain a connection with the community, the market managers would like to propose that a series of special events be approved, amending the time of operation information. The dates are included in the staff report. They happen to be on Saturday mornings from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. and they'll each have a certain theme and focus, essentially maintaining that connection that the market has created in the downtown. Tonight with us we have Valeria Jimenez, who is here to answer any questions that you might have regarding these special events, and I'd also be willing to answer any questions that you might have.
Absolutely. Council, do we want to hear from Valeria? No? Is that a motion? Ms. Jimenez, would you like to just address council? That's what I thought, yeah. Sorry.
I will be brief, yes, I promise. Hello, everyone. I'm really excited about this next season. For one, I will finally get some sleep. And secondly, I'm really excited because this is a great way to continue what we've already begun. And the farmers market is not just about produce and artisanal goods. It really is about the community. It really is about celebrating what's local, celebrating what's in our community, celebrating what's in Turlock. And also, one thing I know is kind of going with the conversation we had about this amendment in the beginning. I love seeing such diversity in that market and anywhere in Turlock. I love seeing the diversity of people coming from not only other parts of Turlock, but we have vendors from Russia, we have vendors from Portugal, we have vendors from all over the world, and it's really kind of cool to see one place where everyone in our community can go and really kind of feel culture and celebrate what we have here. So I think this is a great opportunity to bring something that, like I said, something that's already happening, starting, and to continue that chain and to continue to bring some, I keep on saying bring something. I'm bringing a lot of things. It's just a way to continue what we have. And then I also really like the fact that we're going to be focusing on different things every single month. So November will be more harvest themed. It'll be Thanksgiving oriented. December will obviously be buying your Christmas gifts and shopping for something local. We probably won't be doing January, but February will be a great way to kick off the springtime and maybe Valentine's Day and love in the air. And then March and April will be the same kind of spring. April kicking off the market season again. So it's just a way to kind of focus on what happens during that month and allow our vendors to continue their creativity and get some fresh produce at the same time.
Great.
Any other questions?
That wasn't as brief as we'd like, but
That's
all right,
rude.
We'll take it. Councilmember Scare, up or down? Do you have a question?
I guess I had spoken to Allison earlier. I saw the dates on here, and I was just kind of curious as to what the events were, but you kind of gave me a general idea
Yes.
of what. So there's a theme involved in
theme.
each one. 'Cause
Yes.
I was kind of, okay, what are we going to do? Every Saturday? I don't understand.
It's not every Saturday, it's once a month.
Once a month,
Yes.
okay. All right, but anyway, that gives me a general idea of what you're talking about. So I'm
Okay.
Any additional questions or comments from the council or the audience? Public participation, anyone from the audience? Bringing it back. All right. Sounds good. Councilmember Jacob advances it. Vice Mayor DeHart seconds it. Clerk, please call the roll.
Approving amendment number 4 to the revocable license agreement between the City of Turlock and Golden State Farmers Market Association, GSFMA, for the operation, management, and marketing of a certified farmers market located on City of Turlock property, amending the time of operation to allow GSFMA to host seasonal events in Central Park on the following dates: November 4th, 2017, December 9, 2017, February 3rd, 2018, March 3rd, 2018, and April 7th, 2018, between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m., with setup to begin at 9 a.m. and tear down from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Councilmember Esquer?
Yes.
Councilmember DeHart?
Yes.
Councilmember Bubla?
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob?
Yes.
Mayor Soisa?
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I know everyone's been waiting here for these next items, but we are going to take a quick 7-minute break. So I'm going to, we'll be back at 9:05.
Thank you.
Sorry, Wayne. I watched you pacing outside. All right, bringing it back. Item D, request to approve an agreement between the City of Turlock and Store Transit Systems for management and operation of fixed route and paratransit dial-ride services. Mr. York.
Excellent, thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Over the past year, we've made some significant and notable improvements in regards to transit services within the City of Turlock. It started with the adoption of the short-range transit plan in the summer of 2016, which established a vision for transit in the community and laid out a strategic planning framework for the subsequent 5 years. As a direct result of that, we made some significant changes to our routes, schedules, and operating hours in January of this year, providing better and more reliable service to the community. So with those changes in place, we've moved forward with significant investments in fleet vehicles, recognizing that our deferred capital investments have taken their toll on the quality and the reliability of the city's fleet, and they've contributed to periodic service disruptions, particularly after the unexpected bus fire in February of this year that destroyed 2 buses and damaged 2 others. So the council's been supportive of these investments as we seek to stabilize the condition of our fleet. Our efforts to move Turlock Transit forward continue this evening with your consideration of a multi-year operations and management contract with Store Transit Systems beginning at the end of November. This recommendation is based on a thorough review of responsive proposals received from 4 transit providers in early August. Those providers were First Transit, MV Transportation, National Express, and Store. The solicitation process included pre-proposal on-site reviews of transit facilities, a pre-proposal conference where questions were asked and answered, a clarification process that led to a total of 3 addendums providing additional information for the proposers, and a comprehensive evaluation of proposals by an evaluation committee comprised of 2 city transit staff, 1 city planner, and the City Modesto's transit manager. All elements of the solicitation and evaluation process were conducted in accordance with federal regulations, which is required for a federally funded contract, as well as the process and procedures contained in the RFP itself. To date, the city has received no bid protests. Unlike a public works contract, which those are awarded to the lowest responsible bidder, professional service contracts are awarded on the basis of best value to the city, which considers a variety of evaluation factors in addition to price. In fact, cost proposals were not even opened until after the technical scoring criteria was completed in an effort to not unduly influence the evaluators. The recommendation to award to Store was unanimous by the evaluation committee. The committee felt that Store provided the clearest, strongest proposal with the best understanding of the needs and requirements of the city. They've operated locally and served public agencies for decades. They have a strong reputation for excellence in service provision and customer service, and a large local pool of available drivers and corporate support. That being said, their cost proposal was also the highest of the 4, which poses financial challenges for a service that's held to a defined fare box recovery requirement. However, staff believes these financial challenges are not insurmountable and has outlined a financial strategy in the staff report to increase revenue, decrease expenses, and even work with other regional providers to modify fare box recovery standards to establish a more reasonable, realistic standard prior to the end of the city's 3-year fare box recovery exemption in fiscal year 1920. And in fact, they just approved that recently at StanCog, and that's been sent up. It's going to be going to Senator Canella's office for consideration and review. So in conclusion, staff believes this is the next logical step forward for elevating transit within the community, consistent with both the values and the direction of the short-range transit plan and the expressed desire of the council for enhancements in transit services. We have representatives from Store available for this evening as well. If you have any questions, or if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them at this time.
Any questions for Mr. York? Any questions or comments from the audience? Store. Does anyone from Store like to address it? Please come up.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. My name is Donald Store. I'm President and CEO of Store Transportation. And yes, you can put me on the clock. It's getting late. Anyhow, it's a pleasure to be here tonight. Our family business has been was founded in 1952 in Stanislaus County. My grandfather and grandmother started the business with 2 1947 Packard limousines and began providing special needs transportation to the school districts in Stanislaus County. Today, 65 years later, we're still here, we're still going strong, and we've expanded throughout California. But one thing we do have in common from our roots is that we're still providing service to special needs, disabled, and elderly people, about 70% of our business. We're committed to that. In 1981, we went into the public transit part of our business where we contract with cities and counties. Our first contract with the city of Modesto. 36 years later, we still have the same contract. We've gone through a bid process every 5 years. 1981, we got a contract with Stanislaus County, the START system. We've operated that consecutively for 35 years. We're known for quality, we're known for providing service, and we're local. I was born in this county. I was raised in this county, and my roots are here. If we have a problem, we're 15 minutes away. I'm here tonight to tell you that we're going to take this transit system to the next level. Yes, we're the high bidder, but why are we the high bidder? Because we're putting the money in the pockets of the people who work there, the employees, the drivers. 75% of the current drivers who work for the existing contract are first-year drivers. You currently have about a 75% turnover rate. That's not acceptable for us. We're going to change that. We're going to boost up wages. We're going to give benefits. We stay up with technology. We're cutting edge. So yeah, we're a little more expensive, but you get what you're paid for. With us, you're going to get quality. And I'm really proud to have this opportunity, because this will be 6 times that I've tried to bid on this contract. And we're consistently never going to be the lowest, but we're still here. And when somebody comes in and they make all these promises on paper, it always sometimes doesn't work, but you got my word that we will make this work. So I ask for your support. I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Yeah. Any questions or comments? One quick question I had. Cal football?
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. I would see the store buses come in when I was up at my dorm. That's right. You guys provide the buses for Cal football.
We
yeah, sorry, that's where I'm going. It's after 9 o'clock.
My son graduated from there and was on the football team. And
that's right.
We're still transporting the team. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
But now we transport about 15,000 people each day throughout California. So we have a lot of expectations, a lot of service. But bottom line, we treat anybody that gets on a coach to a school bus, to a transit bus, we treat them all the same.
Absolutely.
So.
Definitely. Any other questions or comments from the council or the audience? All right, bringing it back.
Introduce the motion and resolution. Second.
All right, so we have a motion by Councilmember Bublak, second by Councilmember Scare. Clerk, please call the roll.
Approving an agreement between the City of Turlock and Store Transit Systems of Modesto, California for management and operation of fixed route and paratransit dial-a-ride services for the City of Turlock, operating as Turlock Transit for a base term of 43 months and 6 days, with compensation based on a combination of a fixed monthly fee and a variable revenue hourly fee as specified in the agreement. Amending the 2017-18 and 2018-19 municipal budgets as outlined in the resolution to reflect increased revenues and expenses associated with the selection of a new contracted transit operator. Councilmember Esquer?
Yes.
Councilmember Dehart?
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak?
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob?
Yes.
Mayor Soise?
Yes, motion and resolution carry 5-0. Thank you so much, Wayne. Go Bears from 2 Cal Bears up here. That's exciting. Not why we voted that way. Just saying. Keep those football players safe. All right. Moving on to item E, a request to approve the purchase and delivery of 2 35-foot-long compressed natural gas powered low-floor transit buses.
Thank you. Well, earlier this year, city staff reported on the challenges associated with the quality and the quantity of our fleet. I alluded to it in my earlier comments. The fleet challenges were obviously exacerbated by the fire in February. Since that time, we've been aggressively pursuing funding for both short-term stopgap measures as well as long-term value investments. And so before you this evening is an item that does the latter. It's a focus on the long-term investments. As the council considers authorizing the purchase of 2 35-foot Gillig buses under the existing agreement between the city and Gillig. If you recall, earlier this year, we adopted that agreement for no less than 4, no more than 10 buses over a 5-year span. And so this is part of that agreement. The 2 buses are identical to the 2 purchased earlier this year in every way, including price. This is due both to the diligence of staff in moving quickly once the funds became available, as well as Gillig voluntarily holding their prices despite the fact that they were contractually permitted to request an increase. So that was gracious on their part, as well as the fact that they were willing to include these 2 buses, if approved by the council, in our existing order. So as opposed to waiting for a 20-month production lead time, which is what the typical one is, they're making some adjustments so that we can get all 4 buses delivered at the same time as part of the original order. That is a direct benefit to the citizens because they get them sooner. The buses are funded entirely through federal funds with no local match requirements. As I've shared previously, Gillig buses have a reputation within the industry as a solid, long-lasting performer, which means not only will our citizens benefit, not only will our citizens benefit from larger, high-quality buses, but the taxpayers benefit by having more reliable vehicles with less maintenance costs. If approved this evening, staff will place the order this week. And so if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer it on that as well.
Questions and comments for Mr. York? Set? Yeah, absolutely. After we let public comment, we can do both together. We're moving along. Any public comment on this one? All right, bringing it back. I'll tell you, I'm really glad that we are going to be purchasing these, seeing those buses burned out, and knowing how many people rely on them. It's good to actually get these back in our fleet, but be
Absolutely.
able to get better buses. So, Councilmember Scare, you were saying something? Do you want to? There it is. All right, we have a second. So we have a motion by Councilmember Scare, second by Vice Mayor DeHart. Clerk, please call the roll for both resolutions.
Approving the purchase and delivery of 2 35-foot long compressed natural gas (CNG) powered low-floor transit buses from Gillig LLC of Hayward, California, in an amount not to exceed $1,187,996, Fund 426, as authorized under City Contract Number 16177 for City Project Number 1752, purchase of Gillig buses, September 2017. Amending the 2017-18 municipal budget, Fund 426, as outlined in the resolution to reflect increased FTA Section 5307 grant revenues and increased expenses associated with the purchase of 2 buses from Gillig LLC of Hayward, California. Councilmember Esquer?
Yes.
Councilmember DeHart?
Yes.
Councilmember Bublak?
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob?
Yes.
Mayor Soisa?
Yes, motion carried. Both resolutions passed 5-0. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
Moving on to item F, a request to accept the 2017 water rate study and authorize staff to proceed with the property owner notification requirements of Proposition 218 for the consideration of increasing water rates. I'm assuming it's Mr. Cook. There he is.
Good evening again, Mayor Soyseth, members of the council. I know it's late, but this is a 3-part presentation, and we'll try and keep it brief. But basically, I want to give you a quick background of our water system and the proposed capital improvement program. I have Tom Pavletich from Municipal Financial Services who will give an overview of the proposed water rates, the mechanics of them, and also Kendall Flint from Regional Government Services will explain the requirements of state law for raising water rates and also the public outreach and education campaign we'll launch to get that information out to the public. So the actions before you tonight is the accepting the rate study and proceeding with the property owner notifications, which starts the process to allow you to raise rates should you choose to do so. So what's driving this recent rate study? As you know, we're 100% dependent on groundwater. We have degrading groundwater quality, groundwater depletion, our pumping levels are getting lower, and we're facing increasingly stringent water quality requirements from the state of California. Right now we have 17 active wells. 14 wells are going through rehabilitation. And like most agencies that rely 100% on groundwater, we face 2 main issues. Maintaining a reliable water supply and maintaining a supply that has acceptable water quality. And this quick slide shows some of the supply challenges we've had over the years. And the blue bars represent the amount of water we produce each year, and the red line represents the level of the aquifer. So you can see over time, even though this kind of smooths things out, over time we're actually pumping less water, which is a good thing. And if we had that that line, the dotted line at the top over the last 5 years, you see a dramatic reduction in the last few years. But despite increased consumption, aquifer levels continue to decline. I put some statistics at the bottom that shows you our water use right now is about the same as it was 20 years ago when our population was about 23,000 people fewer. Per capita water use is down 38% from 20 years ago. That's a huge savings people of Interlock have done, and they need to be congratulated for that. But in that, despite those savings, our aquifers declined another 25 feet. So conservation alone is not increasing our supply of water. And your predecessors has been dealing with this issue for the last 40 or 50 years. So, and then we also face the issue, the second issue is water quality. So as I said, we have 17 active wells right now, 3 are going through rehabilitation. Hopefully we'll have 20 wells by the end of the year. But 11 wells are at 75% of the maximum contaminant level. So this is the state of California and federal government set standards for water quality. And over half our wells are at the point where they're getting close to meeting that maximum contaminant level, which means we either have to treat or shut them off. And our main contaminants, as you know, are arsenic nitrates and trichloropropane. So what's the solution? So since the mid-1980s, agencies in this region have been working with Turlock Irrigation District on getting a reliable supply of water from the Tuolumne River, treating it to drinking water standards, and then piping it to whoever's interested. So this process started back in 1986, and I was reading a report about it just the other day, and the consultant concluded that this is the long-term solution to the groundwater supply challenges in the Turlock Irrigation District region. And that conclusion is valid 31 years ago, and is valid today. So 31 years later, we're at the point where we know what the cost of this project will be. We have a partnership with the City of Ceres and Turlock Irrigation District. And we know enough about the capital program to see how that would impact the rates. And so as I mentioned earlier, tonight is the opportunity to start that process of looking at raising rates. And raising rates will not just fund this project, but also make improvements to our existing system, water transmission, water storage, improving wells, and some wellhead treatment. So it's not just for the surface water plant. But again, as I mentioned, the main driver is our participation with Ceres in the drinking water project. The total project is estimated to be $272 million, with Turlock's share being $172 million. As you may recall, you've already planned on rate increases for 2018 and 2019 for our existing groundwater system. This proposed rate structure, if implemented, would supersede that rate structure, so those last 2 rate increases wouldn't occur, and this 5-year rate plan would supersede that. One other quirk is there's a planned rate increase for January of next year. That wouldn't happen, but will probably be implemented in March of next year, and Tom will explain that further. The main thing to drive home is that sticking with a groundwater-only system doesn't mean that rates won't change. Rates will increase steadily over time, even if we stick with groundwater, due to the cost of supply, due to the cost of treatment, due to the cost of storage. And so it's a false analogy to say, well, if we don't do anything, things will stay the same. We estimate about a $20 to $25 premium between the cost of a surface water supply and a groundwater-only system. So that's the true delta between the two costs. And again, hopefully the information that Tom shares with you is the maximum rate. We're working with our partners to try and drive down the cost of the project, to find outside sources of funding, to find grants that hopefully will mean that these rates won't be maximized. So again, our goal is to improve water quality, diversify our supply portfolio, allow for us to have a sustainable aquifer as we're required to now by the state of California, to improve our system flexibility, alternating between surface water and groundwater as we need to, and there are some supplemental benefits to the Tuolumne River by partnering with TID on this project. So that's kind of the first part of the presentation. If you have nothing, I'm going to pass over to Tom to explain the rate structure, Ken at the end, and then we can answer any questions at the end.
Any questions? Yes, Vice Mayor.
Just, excuse me. Just a quick question and clarification, Michael. It was my understanding way back when that when we went through the water rate study and we increased prices for water, this was what,
3 years ago?
3 years ago, that the next price increase would be at the commencement of the surface water project implementation. In other words, at the time that we received that particular rate study, portrayal was that it was quite a ways off before there would be another rate increase to our users. Am I missing something here?
So we 3 years ago adopted a 5-year rate study for groundwater only system. Okay. Since that time, at that time we did this study to analyze the cost of the surface water project, but at that time we didn't have an agreement with Turlock Irrigation District. So the thought was, you know what, let's adopt the rates for a groundwater only system, continue to work on the surface water plant with our other partners, and if something perks up, then we'll come back to the city council. So that things have changed since that time. As I mentioned earlier, the surface water project is our best long-term opportunity for reliable supply. We've managed to enter into those institutional agreements with Turlock Irrigation District. We have a joint powers authority with the city of Ceres. So while we've been working on our groundwater system, we've continued to pursue the surface water plant. And we're at the point now where if you choose to, we could go ahead with that.
I guess my concern, and please understand my concern, that we're going to end up with ratepayers that have very quickly become rate weary. And so I'm trying to come up with some sort of logical understanding or dialogue that I can communicate that says, okay, I mean, when is the next rate increase? Is that a year from now? Is it 2 years now, or 3 years from now, or truly not until the surface plant comes into operation?
Yeah, so what you'll see is you'd planned on 2 more years of rate increases. If this program goes into effect, it'll be 5 more years of rate increases. So through 2022.
Every year there's going to be an increase.
Correct.
If we implement what we get tonight.
Correct. Through 2022.
Have they increased every year for the past 2 or 3?
Yes.
Thank you.
Additional questions or anything?
Good evening, Mayor and council members. It's good to see you again and be part of this project as it comes to fruition. We just have a handful of slides that are basically going to serve as a vehicle to get questions answered. Not that button. There you go.
Bad sign. There we go.
No, that was planned. And now back to our program. So as Mike gave me a great segue, so we can go very quickly, there's an existing 5-year plan. You've done 3 of the rate increases. There were 2 scheduled. It was for groundwater only. That's the second bullet. The third bullet gives you the dates of the rate increases you've done since the plan was adopted. And as Michael mentioned, there was one scheduled for January 1, 2018, a few months. And the plan is to not do that increase, keep the current rates, and start this 5-year, the new 5-year plan in March of 2018. So every time I'm here and we show you rates, we always show you the full thing, even though it's an eyeful, because this is the table that's in the notice of public hearing. It's what the public sees. It's what they vote on, what they cast their ballot on. So I never like to cut corners and not show all the rates. So there they are. Your rate structure, that is the menu of rates, is the same. Commodity rates by customer class, capacity charges by meter size, and a customer charge that's the same for every account. And what we've done is, in order to meet the Proposition 218 requirements that demand a nexus between a service and the rates and the bills that you charge, we did what's called in the industry a cost of service study. So that's what's documented in the draft report. And these are the rates that it yielded. Down below in the second set of rows, we have the percent increases to the rates. Now we're going to look at slides that take those rates and mock up some bills. But first we're going to look at water use. Michael showed you historical water use and groundwater levels. This is prospective. So we envision that conservation will continue from the current benchmark of FY 16-17. So from the already low level, we anticipate continued conservation. This table here is our metric. It follows all the metrics we use to make sure that the rates are going to produce enough revenue in the year it's needed, produce coverage of your debt, and meet the technical requirements of your debt covenants. And then we layer on the percentage increase in a typical single-family bill. Then the stacked columns of the different colors are the categories of expenditures. So in a glance, you can see the entire mechanics of the cash flow and the targets we are trying to meet. Fund balance, coverage, bill increases. We can come back to this if it warrants a question. Michael mentioned the single-family bills under two different concepts, that of a groundwater only, where no surface water facilities would be built, versus one that would have groundwater supplemented with the surface water. So we have the bills for those two different alternatives. The lower one is the blue line for groundwater only, and the yellow golden line is the one we're on, projected. And there's what Michael mentioned is a premium between the two source of water supplies. In the fifth year, or the out years, it's approaching $25. And then a couple more slides on the monthly water bills. This one is for Turlock only. It just shows for the average customer their bill if you broke it up into three components. Commodity, of course, is the one associated with their water use, and that's at the bottom. And you can see it's approximately, well, it's not the main part of the bill. The main part is their meter charge. And that has a number of benefits for the customer and for the city's financing and ability to earn a higher debt rating. The other side is a comparison of monthly bills with other cities up and down the valley here. And you see Turlock there at $42 in a very competitive position compared to your neighbors. And note that the two of the three that are lower than Turlock didn't publish their current rates or any of their prospective rates on the internet, so we weren't able to secure any of their estimated increases for Tracy and Merced. And then finally, we did this table to compare you to other cities that are developing a surface water supply, not just using groundwater. So Fresno spending many millions, literally billions of dollars enhancing its surface water supply. You know what you and Ceres are doing, and Stockton's doing the same. And all are undergoing profound...
The presentation, Milt, or do you want to ask a question right now? He's
increasing their usage, so everyone is getting penalized for people who are using more water, because the more water we use, the more it's going to cost us. We have to recover the cost, but this would give us an opportunity to make it easier on the people, and a tiered rate is going to be presented shortly, and I agree with the tiered rate, because with the tiered rate, low-income people and seniors, and I qualify as both, it's not going to be as high of a rate for us versus the people who are using the water and causing us to spend all this money to produce the water for us. That's all at this time.
Thanks, Milt. Do you guys want to clarify that? Either of you?
There wasn't a clear question. Do you have a question on that concept?
Any questions or comments on that? No. I think we're okay.
Yep.
Ms. Flint?
Well, good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Again, I'm Kendall Flint with Regional Government Services.
California state law, Proposition 218, requires anybody who is going to raise rates for a service such as water delivery to go through what's called a 218 process. This includes a requirement to mail information to every property owner or customer within a service area, and then hold a hearing not less than 45 days after the mailing. And the idea here is to make sure that people have an opportunity to come in and comment on the document itself and on the proposed rates. The council would have an obligation to reject the rate increase if a substantial number of ratepayers and customers were to protest. Now, this is all that is required by law, but the city of Turlock was very interested in making sure that folks had a clear understanding about what this meant to the community and what the parameters were. So for that reason, we're taking this sort of to the next level, creating a more detailed sort of mailer, putting together fact sheets that answer some questions about things like tiered rates and different types of things that people might come up with. We're also going to be having a public meeting on October 12th in the evening. And the purpose of that meeting is really to be able to go through with the consultant team that developed the project plan and ask questions about how the rates were developed, what were the parameters they were using in terms of study. This evening's presentation, obviously very brief, that would give people more time to answer questions. On top of that, the RGS team will be out making presentations through various community groups in the area. And frankly, if anyone is interested in that type of a presentation, they can contact me directly or contact Michael and pass along that information. But we'll be doing that through the fall up until the point where this comes back. Additional information will also be made available on the city's website, and we'll be working with local news media to make sure that they have a clear understanding of what's going on. I think the real goal here from the outreach standpoint is not to advocate one way or the other for the rate, but to make people understand what the difference is in the two sources of water, what the specific benefit is for the community, and to define the cost analysis of that to say what that means so they can make a good decision moving forward on the rate. And that ends my very brief conversation.
Perfect. Any questions or comments from Ms. Blunt? From the council, or now I'm opening it to the audience? From the audience, yes. A gentleman's agreement. Who goes first? I like it.
Bob Puffer, 3040 Oxford Court. I just had a question. Right now, my water bill, there's a minimum charge per month. When these rates start going up, is that minimum charge going to go up also? Thank you.
Mr. Trueweiler.
Could we go back to that slide that you had up that I was talking about? Okay, this explains the minimum rates. What we're doing, rather than increase the price, and we are increasing the price of the commodity, but you see our minimum rates are actually a much larger portion of our water bill than the price of the commodity. As we produce more water, it's costing us more money, but rather than charge for the more water we have to produce because people are using water, we're charging just a base rate that has nothing to do. It's if you use 0 gallons of water, you still have to pay the base rate. So you've got this large percentage, again, for low income. Does not make it more expensive for low income people, that base rate? I use 2,000 gallons average per, well, more than that, probably 3,000 gallons per month average, and yet most of my expense is the base rate. It's not how much water I'm using.
Let me answer. Obviously, rates go up for everybody across the board, but the analogy really is we're investing in a very expensive project. And even before we deliver a gallon of water, we have those fixed costs we have to recoup through the customers. The actual cost of pumping water, treating it, and sending it isn't that expensive. Those variable costs in relation to the fixed costs. And the analogy I used to use the previous city manager, which he enjoyed, was you're purchasing a car, you've got your car payment, insurance, other expenses. If I drive it 1 mile or 10 miles in a week, let's just say, my costs of ownership for that month aren't very different because I've only driven 10 miles of gas versus a mile of gas, or 100 to 1,000. But you've got those sunk costs that are very, very expensive. And that's the challenge with a project like this. You're taking on $172 million worth of debt. and that's the cost you have to recoup. The cost of producing water is probably $5 or $6 million a year, so it's not that expensive. That doesn't redress Milt's concerns, but it's like you have a large capital expenditure that you have to pay back the pipelines, the plant, all that type of thing. It's not the amount of water you run through and treat that is your big expense. So that's why your fixed costs are high and your variable costs are low on a project like this.
I know this is a real challenge for you to actually understand it because you have to be looking at these graphs. The best one to look at, if you look in your, if you can go on your line or whatever you have, your laptops, and look at diagram number 2-1, which shows how the water increase is actually occurring in the summertime. Again, it makes no difference. The price of water, even at the highest rate, is only going to go up to $19, but 53 of it is paid. So let's increase the price of water from $19 with the tiered rate that occurs. The people who are using the most water are paying the largest amount of the price for the water. We've got to go into conservation. We know that, we should know by now that global climate change is occurring. It is real. We're going to have years when we're going to have to shut down the surface water treatment plant, and I'm all for the surface water treatment plant. I just want it to be done correctly because we're not going to have enough water. So that's when we're going to have to use our wells in the summertime and use our surface water treatment plant more in the wintertime. This will give us an opportunity to recharge our aquifer in the wintertime if we get any rain those years. In drought years, we're not going to get that much rain. We're putting too much emphasis on the fixed rate and not enough emphasis on the commodity rate, but the tiered system does put more emphasis on the commodity rate. This year, we're just charging a $25 extra fee for the people using more than 40,000 gallons of water. I want you just to understand we have options here, and you're the informed people who that are going to make this decision. The workshop we're going to have is not really going to change anything. I mean, I'll be talking to the workshops too, but you're going to make the decision. If you could attend the workshops, that might be possible, but then you've got the Brown Act. Okay, I'll stop in a while.
Thanks, Milt. Any additional questions or comments from the audience?
I had kind of eureka moment when Milt was talking. What we need to do, that shows the average bill over the year. But if we show the bill in the summer versus the bill in the winter, you'll see what a big impact higher use will have on your total bill and how those percentages will change through the summer and the winter use. When you're using 5,000 gallons a month versus 25,000 gallons a month, that blue section of your bill will be significantly higher, and in the winter will be significantly lower. So we'll work on that through the workshop. That's a good point that Milt raised there. Sorry. Public meeting, not a workshop.
Public meeting, perfect. All right. Any additional questions from the audience on this item? All right. Yeah, absolutely.
Mike, just for my benefit, the customer charge that we have on the bottom of that bill keeps going up. Can you tell me why, where, what it is, why it's there, why it keeps going up?
Right. Well, the reason it's going up is all the expenditures are going up. Capital expenditures, the new debt, operating, labor, services, and supplies. So all of them are going up, clearly. And they're going up more or less in the same percentage. What the cost that we recover through the commodity charge, right now it's 3 going to 3.5 or so. Those are the type of costs that are the same for every account, no matter what the meter size or how much water they use. So it could be someone on vacation for a month with no water use and a 1-inch meter, or it's hard to conceive, it could be a commercial account with a 2-inch meter with thousands of gallons of use. So what kind of costs are those? Costs for doing things like this. Costs for the utility billing system, for producing regulatory reports, for some of your planning, master planning, for doing your accounting system, producing auditing reports. So it's approximately 5-6% of your entire enterprise revenue requirements that we've associated with that charge.
Okay, well, just for me, to me, I consider it similar to a service charge. Like if I use my credit card, they could charge me 2.5%. Is this like a service charge, or is this just, I mean?
Well, it's more, I just defined it in detail. So if that sounds like a service charge to you, I mean, to me, it's a charge for services that I just named. And the reason we bonded those all together was they share the feature that regardless of how big a meter you have or how much water you use, you cause those charges to be incurred by simply having an account. Yep.
We get this question a lot because it comes up, and I think sometimes the verbiage that's used on this doesn't make as much sense. One charge is basically delivery. It's the pipe coming to your house, period. It's all it is. And everything that associates with delivery goes to the operations and maintenance, like the billing, that sort of thing. So that's delivery. Another one is the amount of water you actually use, right? The commodity. The thing that makes this rate go up more than what you looked at before is the structure of building the treatment plant, right? The 170 million you've got to get in there. So that's why you see it spike. That stuff in the middle is a shared cost for everyone in the system because everyone is going to use that reclaimed water at some point. So those are the three pieces, and that's why they all kind of continue to go up. Even if you move forward, I think Michael was saying that earlier, if it's the council's decision not to move forward with the wastewater treatment plant, right, but just to continue with groundwater, that's a question that will still see rates going up, just not as dramatically. And the real question is, do you believe that the existing groundwater in the area will be sufficient for the long-term needs, not only of the residential community, but the business community? And that's a real question, because in California, just in the last couple of years, there have been increases on the types of, they've lowered the threshold for the types of things you can find in water. That requires your water to be treated more often, your wells to be retrofitted, so there's costs associated there. What we hope to do at the public meeting is talk through all of those different elements that go into this, ultimately trying to explain what that actually meant. I hope that answers your question.
I don't think it did.
Well, yeah, it kind of did. I just kind of, it just, the way that it's set up, and I understand the cost of doing any business. I understand price will go up, but it just seems like this was only implemented, what, 3-4 years ago?
Right, when we broke it up into those different components, yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of one of those difficult things. We try to break things out so we show where our different expenses were, but when you do that, it starts to ask more questions too. And the customer charge really is the cost of, the indirect cost of operating the system. So like the regulatory requirements, the billing, the software, some other things that aren't directly related to providing water to your house and that type of thing. And those costs do go up over time. We project those increases in costs, and that's what they projected to be. So.
Yes, Ms. Trueweller.
I think the thing that I find surprising is that when I look at my electric bill, I have a fixed rate, just like we have here in the city of Turlock. When I look at my, they also have a tiered rate in TID for electricity. When I look at my gas bill, there is no base rate. I pay like $3 a month right now because I have a water heater for my shower. And that's it, $3. With the city, I'm still paying $26. Well, of course, I'm using more water now, but in the winter, I'm still paying more. So how can PG&E get away without charging that? They have infrastructure expenses. Why is it that TID and the city of Turlock have to have all this extra money? Charge the commodity, charge for the commodity, not for the, wouldn't that do the job?
Please.
PG&E is a private company regulated separately, and they have a significantly larger customer base. And so if you're able to do that, you could do your rates a little bit differently. We're a small commodity with 19,000 customers. You have those fixed costs. It's the best way to spread them. PG&E obviously is a statewide concern or Northern California concern and can structure the rates a little bit differently. That's the simple answer. That's not the simple answer?
Well, I feel remiss. You hire me, you pay me good money to give you good advice and complete information. So at the risk of dragging this on too far and knowing we're going to have a public meeting where we can engage citizenry more, just a few facts, some of which you know, but bear repeating in the context of these questions. There was enormous amount of conservation in a very short period of time before any municipal utilities could even raise their rates. So that proves through empirical evidence that conservation can be done independent of whatever your rate is. All of California did it. Those without meters, those with uniform charges, those with 6 tiers, everybody conserved. And the lesson people should have learned was you can foster conservation without radical rate structures. Everybody did it. That's one thing you should always remember. Number 2 is conservation occurs all up and down the use spectrum. Even the person like our household that might use 4 units, 4,000 gallons a month, they can conserve 1 unit, right? The people at the high end, they'll conserve also. What a lot of people like to do is just think of the high-end users and somehow mystically say their additional water should be priced higher when we can't defend that under the Constitution, right? The nexus between cost and benefit. The fact that they use more, they do pay more. But what you don't want to forget is you need conservation from everybody, not just 1% of your users who can't possibly give you the conservation you need to, for example, achieve the conservation goals set out by Governor Brown a couple years ago. In fact, most of that conservation was done by the people who consume between 0 and 20 units. So those people are the most sensitive to what their rate is, and their rate is higher with a uniform rate. So you're actually fostering more conservation throughout the whole usage spectrum with the rate structure we're giving you. There's a lot of other benefits. I alluded to one, getting a higher debt coverage or debt rating, revenue stability. I mean, you were one of the few cities that coasted right through this whole drought without having to panic and raise rates beyond what you had adopted. Why? You're getting most of your revenue from a stable source. And when people conserve 30%, your revenues didn't drop off the face of the earth like almost every other city in the valley did that had steeply tiered rates and that got a lot of their revenue from the commodity charge. So you have to bundle all those facts and all that knowledge when you hear these questions and ask yourself why or why not.
Thank you. Any additional questions or comments? Well, I encourage anyone from the, Councilmember Scare.
Yeah, no, again, the questions I'm asking are because I want to understand, but then the people in the street want to understand also. And it's not that I'm against the motion or the proposal. I just want to make sure everybody understands what's going on. And so the questions I'm asking, a lot of these people aren't going to read all these reports. They just all they know is their rates are going up. And again, their question is, why? And before I can answer that, I want to understand it. So that's why I'm asking the questions. I just want to clarify that, okay? It's not that I'm against all the work you've done and all that. I just want to make sure everybody has the information. And you seem to be doing that. So thank you.
Absolutely, and I appreciate that. And what I was going to say is, if there are additional questions from those that are watching or those in the audience about this, please come to the public meeting to have those answered. But beforehand, Councilmember Scare, if you could maybe sit down with Mr. Cook and Ms. Flint and talk.
Best. So I really want us to concentrate, have the conversations that we need to have, that we've been trying to have.
So what are those items? What are items for future? I'm confused.
So I think we need a special meeting to discuss the city manager position and the fact that we have no finance officer and no attorney.
Well, I think that all are personnel issues, but
Not personnel, this is positions. We have 3 positions open.
they're not.
That's important.
Okay, I don't feel comfortable discussing that in public.
These are just
These not,
positions.
hold on. These are not positions open.
I didn't ask
One
public.
person is returning, and so or both are returning. I think that this is something that's gonna be on the October 10th agenda when we have actual items to discuss for the city management recruitment. So I
I'm
think
asking if we can have it, if somebody else on council is expecting to have it today, and if we can have a special meeting to discuss it.
you know we
tonight.
can't discuss salary and other issues with city management recruitment on a special meeting. So
That's
we
not
will
what
do
I'm
it on
asking.
a regular meeting.
So you're not gonna ask my colleagues, you're just gonna independently make this decision? I think it's important.
You're discussing personnel issues in
It's not
public.
personnel, this is a position. This is only a position. There's a lawyer sitting here. Am I discussing a person? Have I said anybody's names? City manager, city attorney, and our chief finance officer. Those are not names, those are positions. It's important to this community, and we are all 1/5 vote that need to talk about it. It's critical. Did anybody else expect this to be on the council meeting agenda? It was we were told it was gonna be on tonight.
It's extremely inappropriate to be discussing 2 positions when they're on leave. They're returning. The city management recruitment is something that we're going to discuss on a regularly scheduled meeting on October 10th. That's final. Any further discussion on this? All right. Moving on to council comments. Any council comments? Council members? Thank you. Closed session items. Mr. Sky Woodruff, what do we have?
Mr. Mayor, you have 3 closed sessions this evening. The first one is a conference with legal counsel about existing litigation. The name of the case is the County of Stanislaus versus the City of Modesto, City of Turlock, and Modesto Garbage Company. My firm also represents the City of Modesto, so I will not be advising you in this closed session. Morgan Gahuli and Barry Bryan from the firm that is representing the city will be attending that closed session with you. The second closed session is a conference with real property negotiators regarding 3 properties. The first is 1600 Auto Mall Drive, APN 088-010048. The city's negotiator is interim city manager Bob Taloni. Negotiating parties are Baines Property Investments, and under negotiation is price and terms of payment. The second property is 2450 Fulkerth Road, APN 089-019-023. Agency negotiator is the interim city manager. Negotiating parties are Pradeep and Kokila Khatri. Under negotiation, price and terms of payment. Third property is actually 2 separate properties that are, I believe, adjacent, 2400 and 2500 Fulkerth Road. APN numbers 089-019-022 and 089-019-021. The agency negotiator is the interim city manager. The negotiating parties are Julia Paul. Under negotiation, price and terms of payment. Finally, your third closed session is conference with labor negotiators. The agency designated representative is the interim city manager. The employee organizations are the Turlock Associated Police Officers, Turlock City Employee Association, Turlock Firefighters Association Local 2434, Turlock Management Association Public Safety, and your unrepresented employees.
Perfect. Do I have a motion to adjourn to closed session?
So moved.
Do I have a second? We have a motion by Vice Mayor DeHart, second by Councilmember Scare. We're adjourned to close. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Aye. All 5. All right. 5-0. Thanks.
Voice is being heard now.
Someone tell me when the first closed session is done. Great, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's been a long meeting.
It has been.
Thank you all for staying with us. If I were you, I would go get some food. Oh.
No, it's on my office, and I see it every time I go in. I'm like, Milton's gonna ask me about this, and today was the day that he asked me about it. But I am going to read. I have bookmarks and everything.
Great to see you.
Yeah, good to see you as well.
Dinner
Ooh, they're
or Cinnamon?